Millionaire CEO is shocked to find a cleaner, sleeping in the bathroom, and began to fall hopelessly in love. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now subscribe to the channel and let's get started. A light rain drizzled against the towering glass walls of the Grand Minerva Hotel, a place so lavish that it felt like a cathedral built for the most affluent in the city. When the automatic doors slid open with a discreet whoosh, most visitors were greeted by warm lighting, the subtle fragrance of orchids, and the silent courtesy of the uniformed staff. Yet for Lily Reyes, entering through the back service entrance at 4 a.m. carried none of that elegance. She stepped into dim corridors littered with supply carts and the hum of maintenance equipment. Here, no one paused to admire expensive chandeliers or plush carpets. Instead, they hurried along, motivated by the silent knowledge that the Grand Minerva prided itself on perfection, every smudge polished away before dawn. Lily was exhausted. As a cleaning lady on the night shift, she battled endless tasks, scrubbing floors, changing bedding in luxury suites, sanitizing the grand bathrooms. It was her second week working at the hotel, and she was determined to keep the job. She had a 9-year-old daughter at home, living with Lily's elderly aunt, and the bills had piled up mercilessly after her previous job-cut hours. The Grand Minerva's pay was decent, and Lily was grateful to have been accepted without references or experience in a place of such prestige. Every day she promised herself that if she just endured one more shift, she would save enough for her daughter's school expenses. That night, Lily had already cleaned 3 floors on her own. Each floor had 25 suites, each suite with a separate living area, bedroom and bathroom as large as the entire apartment Lily grew up in. She had been pushing her cleaning cart back and forth for hours, her hands raw from sanitizers and her eyes heavy with relentless fatigue. Still, she pressed on. The only thing that kept her from collapsing was the thought of her daughter, Sophia, peacefully sleeping miles away, hopefully dreaming of a brighter future. At around 2:45 a.m., Lily received instructions to head to the top floor. The top floor was reserved for the hotel's most distinguished guests, often millionaires or celebrities seeking ultimate discretion. Rumor had it that the entire level was technically a penthouse suite, though it was subdivided into smaller, incredibly opulent rooms. Lily had always heard whispers that the hotel owner himself, a famously elusive young CEO named Jason King, occasionally stayed in the presidential suite for late-night business calls, but she assumed she'd never cross paths with him. After all, he was rumored to arrive by private elevator, hidden behind a velvet rope corridor sealed off from standard staff routes. By 3:15 a.m., Lily reached the final suite on her list. She double-checked the cleaning schedule, adjusting her gloves with trembling fingers. "Just one more suite," she told herself. "You can do this, Lily. Then you'll have a 15-minute break." A wave of exhaustion rolled over her. The day before, she'd worked a double shift to cover a sick colleague and had gotten only 3 hours of sleep. Her vision blurred as she pushed the cart into the suite's bathroom. If the rest of the penthouse was elaborate, the bathroom was beyond imagination. Marble walls reflected the faint gold lighting from hidden fixtures. A whirlpool tub glistened under crystal lamps. And at the far end, near the vanity, sat an enormous mirror with an ornate frame. Lily tried to focus on the crisp linen towels she needed to replace, yet her entire body ached for rest. Her eyelids felt so heavy. She set down a stack of fresh towels, leaning momentarily against the gleaming counter. The hush of the suite and the gentle hum of distant air conditioning lulled her senses. "I'll just close my eyes for a second," she reasoned, her rational mind submerged by waves of fatigue. She hadn't planned to fully fall asleep, but the next thing she knew, her knees buckled, and she sank quietly onto the closed lid of the toilet, arms folded over the cart. Sleep crashed over her like a tidal wave. She didn't know how long she'd dozed when the faint shuffle of footsteps jolted her awake. Lily sprang upright, heart pounding. She realized, with a horror that gripped her chest that she had been asleep. And worse, footsteps meant someone was in the suite, someone who might notice her slumped on the toilet in a haze of fatigue. Panic zapped through her veins. She scrambled to stand, nearly knocking over a half-open bottle of cleaning solution. The footsteps sounded closer now, confident and unhurried. She expected to see a well-heeled guest, maybe an annoyed occupant returning from a late-night function, or possibly a security guard checking the penthouse levels. Yet who actually appeared in the open doorway was far more intimidating. A tall man in a tailored suit, phone in hand, his expression quizzical. Though Lily had never seen him in person, she recognized him at once. Jason King, the elusive CEO of the King Group, and by extension the Grand Minerva's ultimate boss. For a moment Lily froze. Her pulse raced as she noted his watch, an understated design that probably cost more than an entire year's rent for her. She braced herself for the inevitable scolding or worse, immediate termination. This was no small slip-up. She'd been caught sleeping on the job in a five-star hotel's top-tier suite. Lily bowed her head apologetically, voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, sir. I must have... Please, I didn't mean to..." She expected a sharp reprimand, or for him to call security. Instead, Jason set his phone aside with a calm, almost gentle curiosity in his eyes. He studied Lily for a moment, noting the exhaustion lining her face and the scattered cleaning supplies around her cart. "Are you all right?" he asked quietly. His voice was more concerned than accusatory. Lily swallowed hard. She wanted to keep explaining, to say she was exhausted from weeks of double shifts and single motherhood. Yet the words wouldn't form. Her brain was frazzled with panic and humiliation. Jason glanced around, frowning as though the opulence of the suite had melted away to reveal Lily's dire state. The gold and marble didn't matter at all, not compared to the exhaustion this woman clearly carried. "When was the last time you rested?" he asked, stepping closer. "You look like you're about to faint." Even in her panic, Lily registered confusion. Why was he worried about her? He was the CEO, and she was just a cleaning lady practically invisible to him. Perhaps he was upset about liability, someone fainting on his property. Or maybe he had a personal reason for being kind. Her mind spun. "I'll be fine," Lily whispered, standing straighter even though her legs wobbled. "I'm sorry for sleeping. I'll just finish cleaning right now." She reached for a spray bottle, desperate to look useful, to prove she wasn't incompetent. But Jason gently placed a hand on her wrist, stopping her. The unexpected warmth of his touch and the calm in his eyes disarmed her more than any angry shout could have. "Take a moment," he said, guiding her to a small bench beneath a gilded mirror. "Sit." Tears pricked at Lily's eyes. She had never expected empathy from a man of his status. Usually, anyone with that kind of power would demand perfection. No excuses. She blinked, trying to keep her composure. "I can't afford to lose this job," she finally admitted, voice tremulous. Jason nodded solemnly. "I understand," he replied. Then he kneeled, meeting her at eye level, a gesture shockingly humble for a renowned CEO. "Let me get you some water, and we'll talk about how to help you. No one's firing you tonight, I promise." In that instant, Lily's heart pounded with a flood of conflicting emotions, relief, confusion, and a glimmer of something else, perhaps hope. She could barely process the idea that the powerful owner of the Grand Minerva was offering her kindness instead of condemnation. Her gaze fell to the pristine marble floor, now blurred by tears welling up. She inhaled shakily, giving a soft nod. Outside, the city lights glowed like distant stars against the rainy skyline. Inside that high-rise suite, in a hotel known for its near-impossible standards, two people, worlds apart, stood at a threshold. One was a wealthy, driven CEO who rarely showed vulnerability. The other, a hard-working single mother who had lost count of how many times life had knocked her down. Unknowingly, they both stepped into a moment that would rewrite their futures. But destiny was only beginning to weave its tapestry. As the first fragile bond formed between them, neither could guess the obstacles and surprises that lay ahead. The question remained: could a chance encounter break through the walls, separating a powerful executive and a humble cleaner? Or would the harsh demands of wealth and prestige stomp out any spark of compassion before it could take root? Only time would tell. And this was just the beginning. Once Lily managed to calm her racing heart, Jason gently helped her stand and guided her to the penthouse living room. This area was usually off-limits to staff, but he led her there without hesitation. The space radiated quiet opulence, low ambient lighting, modern sculptures on pedestals, plush seating in soft shades of cream and gray. Even in her state of exhaustion, Lily couldn't help but notice the grandeur around her. On a low glass table stood a silver tray with a pitcher of water and crystal glasses. Jason took one and offered it to her. She accepted, still trembling, and took a cautious sip. The water was cold, refreshing against her parched throat. She managed a soft, "Thank you," eyes lowered in lingering embarrassment. "I'm sorry if I startled you," Jason said, easing into a nearby armchair. He sounded almost shy, a stark contrast to the confident aura he was reputed to have in the business world. "I came to the suite to finish some paperwork and, well, I heard something in the bathroom. I didn't mean to intrude." "There's no need to apologize, sir," Lily said, clutching the glass in both hands. "I should have never— I fell asleep and—" He cut her off gently. "Let's forget that for a moment. Just rest, all right? I'm not here to talk about firing you or anything like that." His eyes flicked over her frayed uniform, scuffed shoes, the shadowy circles beneath her eyes. "What's your name?" Lily. Lily Reyes." He nodded, repeating her name quietly, as though testing how it felt on his tongue. "Lily, I promise you're not in trouble. If anything, I'm concerned about why you're so tired you ended up sleeping in a hotel bathroom. This isn't normal fatigue." His tone was steady, almost too kind for Lily to believe it was real. She worked her lip nervously, the tension in her muscles refusing to let go. After a short pause, she admitted, "I've been covering extra hours, trying to keep up with rent and other expenses. It's been hard." Jason's posture straightened with interest. "Other expenses?" A wave of protectiveness swept through Lily. She didn't want to overshare about her daughter or her personal hardships, especially not to a man she'd met just minutes ago, no matter how kind he seemed. "Yes, I'm a single mom," she finally said, her voice quieter. "My daughter's living with my aunt because I can't afford childcare most nights." Jason's expression softened further. "That's a lot to manage. And you're on the night shift here?" She nodded, remembering how the manager had only offered night shifts to new hires, telling them to work your way up if they wanted a daytime position. "It pays just enough to send money back to my aunt for Sophia's school fees. But I guess I'm not handling the lack of sleep too well." She lowered her gaze, swallowing her pride. "I'll do better. I promise I won't let it happen again." For a moment, silence. Then Jason exhaled. "How many days in a row have you worked double shifts?" Lily tried to recall. "I can't remember exactly. Maybe 6? The days blur. One of the other ladies called in sick, so they asked if I could stay on." She shrugged weakly. "I need the hours." Jason was quiet, letting her words settle. Only the distant hum of the suite's climate system and the hush of the city lights outside filled the silence. His mind was in swift motion, thinking about staffing protocols, the stress on employees, how a place like the Grand Minerva commanded so much from its workers. "Okay," he finally said, pressing his fingertips together. "Tomorrow, actually this morning, you should speak with your supervisor about rest. If they're understaffed, I'll address it." Then, seeing the alarm that flashed in her eyes, he raised a hand gently. "Don't worry about repercussions. I want you healthy, not burnt out. It's better for everyone." She stared at him, momentarily speechless. The notion that a boss, let alone the CEO, would step in to advocate for her sounded more like a fairy tale than reality. She tried to form a response but couldn't find the right words. Gratitude, fear, confusion, they all mingled in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered at last. I didn't think you would." Jason offered a small, reassuring smile. "I know the hotel's image is all about perfection, but perfection doesn't come from overworking people until they collapse. I'm sorry if that's been your experience." Lily's throat felt tight. Before she could speak, the soft ring of Jason's phone cut through the moment. He checked the screen and grimaced apologetically. "I need to take this. Business call from Singapore. It's a bit urgent." He stood up, adjusting the lapel of his suit. "Wait here, okay? Drink more water. There's some fruit on the counter if you're hungry." She nodded, feeling oddly out of place in the sumptuous living room. Watching him step into a side office, she noticed how his entire posture changed once the phone call started. Back straight, voice more clipped, not unkind, but decidedly all business. She could see how he'd gained his reputation, commanding any room he entered with an effortless but intense presence. For the next few minutes, Lily sat alone, occasionally sipping water, trying to collect her nerves. She glanced around the suite. She'd never realized how huge these penthouse levels were, and up close, everything felt so personal, not the usual public glamour of a hotel lobby. Even the way the couches were arranged created an atmosphere of private comfort rather than the grandeur that greeted typical guests. She noticed a tray on a sideboard laden with small pastries and delicate macarons, no doubt set out for VIP guests. Her stomach rumbled. She hadn't eaten since a rushed sandwich at the start of her shift. Feeling too self-conscious to indulge in the pastries, she inched toward the small bowl of fruit Jason had mentioned. Selecting a single strawberry, she bit into it and almost moaned at the sweetness. Everything in the Grand Minerva, yes, even its fruit, seemed curated to be the best of the best. As she ate, her senses perked up. Something about the flavor profile of the strawberry reminded her of how, as a child, she used to help her grandmother gather wild berries, then experiment with different ways to season or preserve them. She loved that process of identifying and enhancing tastes. Later, as a teenager, she developed a remarkable palate, able to distinguish subtle differences in spices and herbs just by scent. Once upon a time, Lily had dreamed of attending culinary school, but life had other plans. She cast the memory aside with a small sigh, focusing on the here and now. Jason returned sooner than she expected. Phone call ended, a faint line of tension on his brow. He took in the scene, Lily near the fruit bowl, posture still timid, eyes down. "You feeling better?" he asked. She nodded. "A bit, thank you." He walked over to the sideboard with the pastries, picking up a small lemon tart. "You should try these," he suggested, offering the plate out to her. "They're from our in-house patisserie. Every day the chef puts out fresh creations for high-level guests." Lily hesitated, then gently plucked a tart from the plate. She knew she should be returning to her cleaning station or leaving to clock out, but Jason's calm presence lulled her sense of urgency. Tasting the tart, she closed her eyes briefly, letting the delicate tang of citrus mingle with the buttery crust. "Wow," she breathed. "It's so balanced. The sweetness doesn't overpower the lemon. And I think they used an Italian meringue on top? Or maybe a Swiss meringue. It's very light, maybe whipped longer." She froze, realizing she'd spoken aloud. Mortified, she dropped her gaze. "Sorry. I used to cook a lot, so I notice those things. I probably sound silly." Jason didn't laugh or scold her. Instead, he studied her intently. "Not silly at all," he said. "You can identify the difference in meringue types just by taste?" Lily shrugged, cheeks burning. I'm not sure. I'm usually right, though. I guess I have a sensitive palate. He seemed impressed. Have you ever worked in a kitchen or in culinary arts? Her eyes flickered with a brief glow of old dreams. No, that was always out of reach for me. I cook for my daughter, but it's mostly simple meals. Still, I love tasting new flavors whenever I can. Jason tapped his chin thoughtfully. Our executive chef is working on updating some of the hotel's menus. Maybe I should have him talk to you at some point. Your perspective might be valuable. Lily blinked in shock. My perspective? I'm a cleaning lady. I'm sure he has 100 professional testers. Professionals can be jaded, Jason replied with a small grin. Sometimes a palate that's fresh, unbiased, can offer insights others miss. The thought seemed so absurd to Lily that she almost laughed, but Jason's expression was entirely serious. She couldn't help feeling a thrill at the idea, although she quickly reminded herself that realistically this was just polite conversation. People like Jason King didn't truly involve staff in major decisions, right? Their exchange was interrupted by Lily's phone vibrating. She glanced down. A missed call from her aunt. Lily's pulse quickened. Excuse me, I need to check on my daughter, she said, already stepping away. I should also get back to work. My shift ends soon. Jason nodded. Of course. He glanced at the large clock near the suite's entrance. It's almost 4:30. When you clock out, please make sure you get home safely. If you need a car, I'll be fine, she insisted, mind racing at the kindness of his offer. I take the bus. It's late, but it runs. He exhaled softly, as though reluctant to let her vanish back into her routine. All right, but let me walk you to the staff elevator at least. Lily's instinct was to refuse. She knew the sight of the CEO escorting a cleaning lady to the service elevator might raise eyebrows, but something about the sincerity in his gaze made her nod timidly. They walked side by side through the corridor. She kept her head bowed, suddenly very conscious of her scuffed shoes and worn uniform. Yet Jason didn't seem to notice or care. He pressed the call button for the service elevator, the mechanism humming as it approached. As they waited, he turned to her. Before you go, Lily, he said, I need you to remember something. If you're ever in a situation again where you feel unsafe, too tired, or anything like that, talk to your supervisor. And if they won't listen, come to me. There's no excuse for pushing employees past their limits. Her throat tightened with emotion. Thank you, Mr. King. You've been, I don't know how to say this, but thank you, she repeated, voice trembling. He offered a small nod, sincerity flashing in his eyes. Call me Jason. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding. Lily stepped inside, feeling an odd weight in her chest. She pressed the button for the laundry floor where her time card was stored. As the doors closed, Jason offered her a final, gentle smile. For Lily, that smile lingered in her mind far longer than she wanted to admit. All the way down to the service level, through the echoing corridors, she replayed the conversation. How the wealthiest man in the city had treated her with genuine kindness. How he'd noticed her hidden talent with flavors. Yet she forced herself to refocus on reality. Soon, she'd be on the chilly street corner, waiting for the dawn bus. Tomorrow she'd have to face her supervisor. Life went on. But a quiet spark flickered in her chest, an ember of possibility. Maybe, just maybe, there was more to her future than endless nights of mopping floors and staggering exhaustion. With that thought as her final comfort, Lily clocked out and prepared to return home. Little did she know that the simple conversation in the penthouse suite was about to set off a chain of events far greater than she ever imagined. A few hours after leaving the Grand Minerva, Lily stood outside her aunt's modest apartment building. The sky was still a sleepy gray, the sun not yet fully risen. She paused to catch her breath, leaning against the chipped railing by the stairs. Even though she dozed a little on the bus, every muscle in her body still felt drained. Fishing out her key, Lily let herself into the quiet apartment. Faint light from the kitchen revealed the living room strewn with children's toys, puzzle pieces, crayons, and an unfinished jigsaw puzzle. She tiptoed down the narrow hallway to the bedroom her aunt shared with Sophia. She was prepared to see her daughter asleep in bed, but instead she found the door open and the room empty. A murmur of voices drifted from the kitchen. Lily followed the sound and discovered her 9-year-old Sophia perched at the small table, slurping cereal. Across from her, Aunt Rosa stood in a faded bathrobe, hands cradling a mug of coffee. Though lines of worry and age mapped Rosa's face, she brightened when she saw Lily. "Morning, Mija," Aunt Rosa greeted gently. "I was about to call again. You got in late." "Morning," Lily replied, kneeling to hug Sophia. The child's arms encircled her neck, and Lily couldn't help but inhale the faint scent of vanilla shampoo. "Sorry if I worried you. I had to stay after my shift for a bit." Aunt Rosa gave her a knowing glance. "Everything all right?" Lily hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, just stuff at work." She didn't want to dive into the chaotic details, falling asleep on the toilet, being found by the CEO, or his unexpected kindness. Rosa was protective, and Lily didn't want her aunt losing sleep out of fear that Lily might lose this crucial job. Sophia frowned. "You look extra tired, Mom," she said, gently poking Lily's cheek, more than usual. Despite the exhaustion pinching her own bones, Lily forced a smile. "I'm fine, sweet pea," she lied softly. "Just a busy night." But her voice caught on the memory of Jason's kindness, how he'd insisted she rest. She found it baffling that someone like him could look so genuinely concerned. Aunt Rosa set her coffee mug down. "I saved you some rice and beans. They're still warm." "Thank you," Lily said, "but I might shower and sleep first." She was aware she had to be back at the hotel that evening for another shift. If she didn't rest, she'd never manage. Pulling herself to her feet, she set a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Let me know if you need anything for your school project." "Okay," Sophia replied, brightening. "I'm making a volcano for science class, remember?" "Yes, I remember." Lily ruffled her daughter's hair. "We'll make it look so real they'll think it's about to erupt." Sophia giggled. "We can use food coloring for the lava and maybe some baking soda inside." "Count on it." At that, Lily kissed her daughter's forehead and padded to the small bedroom she shared with no one. She'd claimed the smaller room so her aunt and Sophia could share the larger space, and while it wasn't exactly spacious or glamorous, its paint peeled in corners, it was hers. She locked the door and quickly changed. Exhaustion weighed on her so heavily that every second upright felt like too much. Yet as she flopped onto the bed, her mind replayed the surreal events of the night. Her embarrassing moment of getting caught asleep, Jason's gentle voice, the conversation about her palate, the lemon tart's taste on her tongue. Weary as she was, Lily couldn't shake the notion that something about her life had shifted. The CEO of the entire hotel chain had noticed her personally. He'd offered to help, and for once it hadn't felt like pity or a ploy or condescension. It felt sincere. But she had known wealthier men before who wore kindness like a fashionable accessory, only to be revealed as shallow or self-serving later on. She couldn't let her guard down. Not now. Not with so much at stake. Pulling the blanket over her shoulders, Lily willed her overactive brain to be quiet. Eventually, she drifted off, lulled by a faint sense of possibility, even if she didn't quite trust it yet. When Lily woke, the afternoon sun was filtering through the thin curtains. She'd slept maybe 5 or 6 hours, which was more than she usually managed. Stretching, she glanced at the time on her phone, almost 2 p.m. She had about 4 hours before she needed to catch the bus for the night shift. A wave of relief washed through her, knowing she had a moment to breathe, to see Sophia, maybe eat properly for once. After a quick shower, Lily dressed in comfortable sweatpants and a t-shirt, then wandered to the kitchen. Aunt Rosa had gone to a part-time cleaning job, leaving Sophia quietly working on her volcano project at the table. Cardboard scraps, glue, and paint dotted the surface. Lily smiled, stepping up to peek at her daughter's progress. "You're doing great, sweet pea," Lily remarked, running her thumb along the edge of a newly formed papier-mâché mountain. "I can't wait for the eruption," Sophia squealed, swirling red paint on top of the paper cone. "But we have to let it dry first." Lily nodded. "We'll do the rest after I get back tomorrow morning, all right?" Sophia pouted slightly. "You have work again?" "You know I do." Lily softened her tone. "But maybe soon your mom won't always have to work nights." The words spilled out before she thought them through, echoing the tiny hope sparked by Jason's promise to fix her schedule, or at least ensure she wasn't forced into double shifts. She wasn't sure if that was even realistic, but she yearned to believe in it. Sophia shrugged as though used to disappointment. "It's okay, Mom. But promise you'll help me test the volcano?" "Cross my heart," Lily said, pressing a kiss on her daughter's head. "Now, let's see about some late lunch." While the two rummaged through the fridge, Lily let her thoughts drift again to the hotel. She dreaded an awkward confrontation with her supervisor, who might see her conversation with Jason as going over his head. Or perhaps Lily would be scolded for inappropriate behavior in the penthouse. Either way, she had to muster the courage to ask for some relief from these punishing hours. Jason's words had emboldened her, but she feared the repercussions if her boss didn't respect Jason's instructions. As day turned to evening, Lily got ready for work. She noticed her uniform looking even more worn than usual, but she couldn't afford a replacement yet. Combing her hair into a tight bun, she forced a small, confident smile in the mirror. She would not let intimidation stop her from speaking up. Things had to change. Back at the Grand Minerva, Lily arrived at the employee entrance to find an unusual flurry of activity. A new directive had evidently been issued. More staff members were assigned to each floor, housekeeping shifts were being rotated, and an assistant manager scurried around with a clipboard, calling out changes in scheduling. Lily spotted her immediate supervisor, a stern woman named Belinda with sharp, calculating eyes, reviewing a roster. Lily approached with cautious optimism. "Excuse me, Belinda," she said quietly. "I was hoping to talk to you about my hours." Belinda hardly glanced up. "You're on 6th floor duty tonight, as usual. No special instructions. Is that all?" Lily's heart thudded. "Well, I wanted to ask if there's any chance I can switch to fewer double shifts. I've been working quite a lot and—" Belinda's brow furrowed as she raised an eyebrow. "You're complaining about overtime pay now? Plenty of employees would kill for extra hours in this economy." "It's not that I don't want hours," Lily clarified, fighting to keep her voice steady. "I just physically can't do double after double. Last night I nearly passed out." Belinda's lips thinned with disapproval. "If you can't handle the workload, Ms. Reyes, maybe you're not cut out for the job." Lily felt a stab of anxiety. "I'm not complaining, if there's any possibility of rotating or adjusting—" Suddenly a new voice cut through the tension. "Actually, Ms. Reyes's request is perfectly valid." Turning, Lily saw an impeccably dressed older gentleman approach, his posture authoritative. She recognized him as Mr. Rowland, one of the senior managers at the hotel. "In fact," he continued, "I've been instructed to ensure Ms. Reyes is taken off any consecutive double shifts, effectively immediately." Belinda gaped, turning red. "Instructed by whom?" "Mr. King," Rowland said matter-of-factly. "He wants no staff member overworked to the point of exhaustion, especially Ms. Reyes." He gave Lily a reassuring nod. "We value employees who show dedication, but we also value their well-being." A swirl of shock, relief, and unease coursed through Lily. So Jason's influence was already at play. Belinda muttered something under her breath, scanning her clipboard. "Fine. I'll see what can be done," she said tersely, then strode off without another word. Lily exhaled shakily. "Thank you, Mr. Rowland," she managed, her mind spinning. He offered a polite dip of his head. "Just doing what the boss asked. And I believe housekeeping is short on the 10th floor, so for tonight you're reassigned there. The shift ends at a standard 8 hours. That's all." Without waiting for a response, Rowland pivoted and walked away, leaving Lily startled by how swiftly everything had changed. A short while later, Lily found herself stepping onto the 10th floor, pushing a smaller cleaning cart than usual. The relief that she wouldn't be forced into another double shift made her almost giddy. At least physically, she felt more stable, hopeful she could pace herself. She soon realized, however, that the 10th floor was somewhat unique. It housed several VIP suites, frequently used by visiting business people. The decor was slightly more extravagant than the regular floors. Flashes of gold trim, chandeliers in the hallway, plus a lounge for top-tier guests. Nervousness prickled her. Would she possibly run into Jason King again? "Focus, Lily," she told herself. "Don't get caught up in illusions. He's the CEO, not your friend." Still, memories of his gentle expression in the penthouse last night pressed against her thoughts. Shaking it off, she began her standard cleaning routine, vacuuming corridors and gathering used linen. Halfway through her rounds, Lily heard a muffled argument behind a suite door. Two voices were raised in dispute, one male, one female. She paused, uncertain whether to knock. Suddenly the door swung open, revealing a well-dressed woman with a furious expression, practically dragging her suitcase into the hallway. Her eyes flicked over Lily, dismissing her as just housekeeping, before storming off. From inside the suite, a man's voice cursed quietly, frustration lacing every syllable. Then he noticed Lily lingering in the hall. For a moment, she locked eyes with him. He was perhaps in his 40s, wearing a business suit askew, tie loosened, face flushed with anger. The tension in the air bristled. In an instant, Lily recognized him as a high-profile guest known for his short temper. Mr. Allister, an investor rumored to be a longtime associate of Jason King's father. "Get back to work," he snapped, stepping into the corridor to watch the woman's retreat. When she disappeared around the corner, he exhaled in frustration and retreated into his room, slamming the door. Stunned, Lily rushed on, not wanting to get entangled in whatever meltdown he was having. But she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that the tension up here was more than typical guest drama. She prayed she'd have no reason to cross paths with Mr. Allister again tonight. The rest of her shift proceeded smoothly enough, no one barking at her, no extra tasks. She did her cleaning, she replaced towels, she restocked toiletries, and as midnight approached, Lily felt a small but definite sense of calm. True to the new instructions, she saw no sign that she'd be forced to stay longer. Yet, an hour before her scheduled finishing time, a call came through her staff radio. "Ms. Reyes, can you come to the gourmet kitchen on level 7? The executive chef wants a quick consult. Something about flavor testing." Lily's heart skipped. Flavor testing? She was sure this had to be a mistake. Housekeepers never got pulled to the kitchen for consults. Perhaps they needed her to clean up a spill. She pressed the talk button with a shaky hand. "On my way." Still, as she gathered her supplies and headed toward the service elevator, her pulse quickened with the memory of Jason King's mention of Lily's sensitive palate. Could he have actually arranged something with the chef? The possibility thrilled and terrified her. Within minutes, Lily descended to level 7, stepping into the labyrinth of stainless steel counters, gleaming appliances, and busy sous chefs. The clatter of pans and hiss of gas stoves surrounded her. The executive chef, a tall woman in a crisp white jacket, spotted Lily at once. Her expression was coolly professional as she beckoned Lily over. "You're Ms. Reyes?" the chef asked, scanning Lily's worn uniform with a flicker of curiosity. "Yes," Lily managed. I got a call." The chef inclined her head. Mr. King requested we get some feedback from you on a couple of new menu items, something about your fresh perspective. I was skeptical, but orders are orders. She pointed to a workstation where several small plates were arranged. Come, taste. Tell me what you think. Lily's stomach flipped. Glancing around, she noticed sous chefs eavesdropping, puzzled as to why housekeeping had been summoned. Self-conscious, Lily approached. She eyed the plates, one with a delicate ceviche, another with a miniature tart of goat cheese and figs, another with a vibrant sauce drizzled over an unfamiliar protein. She swallowed, ignoring the suspicious stares. Then she lifted a tiny spoon and tasted the ceviche. At first, she just noted the brightness of citrus. Then her senses kicked into gear, picking out subtleties. The sweet tang of fresh mango bits, the underlying hint of ginger. However, something slightly off lingered. A bitterness from the lime pith, perhaps. Quietly, Lily shared her observations. The chef listened, arms folded, brow raised. So you're suggesting we reduce the lime zest and switch to a milder ginger infusion? She asked pointedly. Maybe, Lily said meekly, or use a bit more salt to balance the bitterness. It's just a thought. A flicker of surprise crossed the chef's face. Interesting. Let's try the others then. One by one, Lily tasted. Though she felt out of place, once she focused on the flavors, nerves fell away. She offered insights about each dish, catching delicate details the chef seemed intrigued by. By the end, Lily's heart was racing with excitement. She almost forgot she was in a crumpled uniform, a housekeeping badge pinned to her chest. Thank you, the chef said at last, scribbling notes. Mr. King should be informed, though I suspect he already knew you had this talent. We'll revise a few items accordingly. Lily flushed. I hope it helps. Indeed, the chef murmured. If you have more input, come back. You have a unique palate. With that, she dismissed Lily back to her cleaning duties. Shaken, Lily returned to her cart. She was nearly done for the night, but her mind whirled. Jason King. He really had told the kitchen to consult her. He'd believed in her palate. However small the gesture might seem, it felt monumental to Lily. A door had cracked open into a world far beyond housekeeping, and it left her reeling with both excitement and fear. Could she let herself dream bigger? Or would that be a mistake, considering how precarious her life was? Turning in her supply cart, Lily exited the service corridors. As she walked through the staff lounge, heading for the time clock, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in a glass partition, dark circles under her eyes, uniform smudged with dust. Nothing special on the outside, she thought wryly. But on the inside, a seed of possibility sprouted, nurtured by Jason's unexpected faith in her. That night, she left the Grand Minerva with a lighter step. She couldn't know the journey awaiting her, one where entwined hearts, jealous rivals, and the weight of public scrutiny would soon test every ounce of her spirit. All she knew was that, for the first time in a long while, she felt seen, and that alone kindled a spark of hope like no other. 4 days had passed since Lily's impromptu taste-testing session with the executive chef. During those shifts, she noticed a subtle but remarkable shift in her work life. She was no longer assigned grueling back-to-back doubles. The housekeeping team seemed to treat her with a new, if sometimes grudging, respect, likely due to Mr. Rowland's directives straight from Jason King. In corridors and break rooms, a few colleagues whispered curiosities about how Lily had caught the CEO's eye. Rumors swirled. Some said she had blackmail material. Others claimed she was secretly dating a manager. Lily tried not to let it bother her, keeping her head down and focusing on each day's assignments. That didn't stop the swirling thoughts in her own head, though. Every night she replayed the memory of that lemon tart in Jason's penthouse, and each time her radio crackled with a special request, her pulse skipped, wondering if it might be the chef asking for more flavor advice, or even Jason himself. But the calls that came were mundane. We need more linens on floor 6. Or spill in the conference hall, can you handle it? No direct mention of Mr. King. Even so, Lily found reason to hope that her work might lead somewhere more fulfilling one day. She tried new spice blends in her aunt's kitchen whenever she had time, testing them on Sophia's dinner. Sophia, delighted that her mom was around a bit more thanks to the reduced hours, would happily taste a pinch of each new concoction, declaring them amazing or too weird, Mom. Lily laughed more now than she had in months. The first taste of real possibility in her life felt sweet indeed. One evening, about an hour before Lily's shift, her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She picked up cautiously, not recognizing the area code. "Hello? Lily? This is Jason King." Her breath caught. She found herself clutching the phone as if it might vanish. "Oh, hi, Mr. King." "I thought we agreed you'd call me Jason," he teased lightly. "I got your number from Mr. Rowland's HR files. Hope that's all right." She exhaled, baffled but not upset. "Yes, of course." "Great. Listen, I'm calling because we're hosting a private tasting event soon for some of our VIP clientele. Small group, about a dozen or so. Chef Claire will present new menu concepts, and I was hoping you could attend. Get your honest thoughts." A swirl of surprise ran through Lily. "Me? At a tasting event with VIPs?" "Yes," Jason said, as if it were perfectly normal. "Nothing official, so you can dress comfortably. Just bring that palette of yours. I promise you won't have to serve or clean. You'll be there as a guest, an important one." Her first instinct was to protest. She was just a night shift cleaning lady. She'd have to be in the same room as wealthy socialites, or maybe even celebrities. That scenario felt utterly surreal. Yet, an undercurrent of excitement pricked at her. I wouldn't want to impose." "You won't be," he assured her. "In fact, Chef Claire insisted. She said your input helped her refine 3 recipes last week. She wants more of it." Lily felt the corners of her lips curl up despite her nervousness. "When is it?" "Tomorrow, 7 p.m. in the Rose Garden Lounge on the top floor. You're off at 6, right?" Yes, actually. My shift ends at 6 tomorrow." "Perfect, you can head up after you clock out. And if you need an outfit, the hotel can provide something. Or you can wear your own clothes. Whatever makes you comfortable." She paused, heart pounding. "I have something I can wear, I guess." She'd figure it out. Maybe she could rummage for a simple dress that still fit. "Thank you, Mr. Kai, Jason. I appreciate this opportunity more than I can say." He chuckled softly. "Don't overthink it, just come. We'll see you there, Lily." They said their goodbyes. The moment Lily hung up, she felt as though the ground under her feet had tilted. She stared at the phone for a long moment, caught in a dizzy tangle of excitement and anxiety. How on earth would she fit in at a VIP tasting? Then again, how could she possibly turn down an invitation from the CEO? The next 24 hours flew by in a haze. Lily studied her reflection in her tiny bedroom mirror, trying on an old navy blue dress that hugged her modest curves. She'd bought it second-hand for her cousin's wedding 2 years earlier. It was simple, knee-length, and had a bit of lace detail around the neckline. If she paired it with a cardigan, she thought it might look reasonably elegant and cover any insecurities. She hoped she wouldn't stand out for the wrong reasons. The day of the event, she finished her cleaning shift and rushed to the staff locker room. Her coworker Elaine, a kind older woman, noticed Lily's anxiousness. "You okay, hun?" Elaine asked as Lily combed her hair with trembling fingers. I have somewhere to be," Lily said vaguely. She wasn't ready to broadcast that she'd been invited to a private VIP tasting. The rumor mill would explode. Instead, she nodded a quick goodbye and slipped into a bathroom stall, changing from her housekeeping uniform into her carefully packed dress. She dabbed a bit of makeup on, mascara and light lipstick, hoping it didn't look amateur. At 6:50 p.m., Lily stepped into the elevator that would take her to the top floor. She smoothed her dress nervously, her pulse thumping at her temples. The ride felt endless. She couldn't shake an irrational fear that when the doors opened, someone would laugh at her, or worse, turn her away, saying she didn't belong. But when the doors slid open, a polite hotel staff member in a crisp suit greeted her with a gentle smile. "Ms. Reyes?" he asked. "Right this way." He led her through a gleaming corridor that opened into the Rose Garden Lounge, named for its panoramic windows framed by trellises of blooming roses. The entire city sprawled out below like a sea of lights. Inside, several small tables were arranged in a U-shape, each set with white linens, polished cutlery, and elegant wine glasses. At one end of the lounge, Chef Claire stood behind a decorative partition, plating amuse-bouches. A half-dozen guests were already mingling, men in tailored suits, women in designer dresses. Lily's breath hitched. They radiated the casual poise of the ultra-wealthy. One or two offered polite nods in her direction, and she tried to smile back. Then Jason King appeared from behind a cluster of tall potted palms, stepping toward her with an easy, genuine smile that made Lily's nerves settle a fraction. He wore a tailored black suit, no tie, exuding a relaxed kind of authority. "You made it," he said softly, his gaze sweeping over her with evident approval. "You look lovely." Her cheeks burned. "Thank you." She couldn't remember the last time someone called her lovely. I hope I'm not too early." "You're right on time," he assured her. "Let me introduce you to Chef Claire, and then we can find our seats." Chef Claire approached, nodding at Lily with the same brisk professionalism Lily had seen in the kitchen. "Glad you could make it," she said. "I set aside special tasting spoons so you can share notes. Don't hold back." Lily nodded, swallowing hard. "I'll do my best." Just then, a familiar figure sauntered into the lounge, the same man Lily had seen arguing with a woman in the hallway, the scowling Mr. Allister. He was accompanied by two other individuals, presumably fellow investors or associates. Allister's gaze slid across the room, landing on Lily, and a faint sneer twisted his lips before he turned away dismissively. Lily's stomach dropped. He clearly recognized her as a staff member but gave no greeting. Jason seemed to notice Lily's discomfort. Leaning closer, he murmured, "Don't worry about Allister. He's complicated." Then he guided her gently toward the far side of the room, where a small round table was reserved for them. The rest of the VIPs took their places at other tables, forming a loose circle around Chef Claire's presentation station. "Welcome, everyone," Chef Claire began, her tone practiced and calm. "Tonight we'll preview several new menu items we hope to feature in the Grand Minerva's fine dining experience. Your honest feedback is crucial, so please speak freely." Servers in crisp uniforms began circulating, distributing the first tasting plates. Lily's heart thumped as she accepted a dish of seared scallops with saffron risotto. She noticed Jason discreetly watching her reaction. With trembling fingers, she lifted her fork and tasted the food, mentally cataloging the flavors. The saffron was aromatic, but not overpowering. The scallops were tender with a crisp sear. Maybe a touch more acidity might brighten the dish? Jason raised an eyebrow, leaning in. "What do you think?" She whispered, "It's fantastic. Maybe a small citrus note, like a splash of lemon or yuzu to cut the richness?" He nodded, seemingly impressed. "Agreed." When Chef Claire came by for commentary, Lily hesitantly shared her suggestion. The chef gave a brisk nod of acknowledgement and scribbled it onto her notepad. Meanwhile, the other VIP guests shared their own thoughts, though some did little more than murmur, "Tasty," or "a bit salty for my liking." Lily was struck by how surface-level some remarks felt. She realized these wealthy patrons enjoyed the pageantry of tastings, but not all had a palate for nuance. Course after course arrived, a foie gras torchon with a fig reduction, a tangy gazpacho shot with hints of watermelon, a chocolate ganache tart topped with gold leaf. Lily's senses soared, her face alight each time she discovered a nuanced spice or subtle layering of flavors. She offered quiet but perceptive notes on each dish, and Chef Claire listened, occasionally adjusting plating or finishing touches. Even a few of the VIPs started asking Lily's opinion, but not Alistair. He kept silent, picking at his food with an air of indifference. At one point, Lily caught him casting a withering glance her way. She tried to ignore it, focusing on the warmth of Jason's presence beside her, his encouraging smiles each time she spoke. As dessert wound down, a gentle applause followed Chef Claire's final announcement. Everyone rose, mingling for a short while with glasses of sparkling wine in hand. Lily stood awkwardly off to the side, mind buzzing from the extraordinary meal. Jason excused himself to speak with the chef. She watched him go, caught in a mixture of admiration and disbelief that she was here at all. Someone tapped her shoulder. She turned to see Alistair's arrogant stare. Up close, she noticed fine lines around his eyes and a faint sheen of sweat on his brow. He smelled of expensive cologne. "So," he said, voice dripping condescension, "the new hire in housekeeping becomes a gastronomic expert overnight?" Lily felt a flash of defensiveness. "I'm just giving honest feedback," she managed, forcing politeness. He huffed a short laugh. "Yes, well, let's see how long this little charade lasts. I can't imagine Mr. King will keep indulging you for long." Before she could respond, he turned and strode away, leaving her rattled. While Lily tried to steady herself, Jason returned, noticing her shaken expression. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. She mustered a nod, though her throat felt tight. Not everyone seems thrilled I'm here." Jason's eyes flicked to Alistair's retreating form. "He's not your concern, trust me. You have a talent, Lily. Don't let anyone make you doubt it." The conviction in his voice almost brought tears to her eyes. "Come on," he added gently. "Chef Claire wants a group photo. Let's join her." Following him back toward the center of the lounge, Lily took a steadying breath. She thought of Sophia, her aunt, the promise of building a better life. Perhaps this strange new path, sparked by a midnight encounter in a marble bathroom, was leading somewhere real. And though doubts gnawed at her, Jason's unwavering confidence radiated a quiet power. For the first time in years, Lily believed that her strengths mattered, and she refused to let a scowl from someone like Alistair snuff out that flicker of hope. The night of the tasting wrapped up with a group photograph, Chef Claire front and center, flanked by Jason, Lily, and a cluster of well-dressed guests. Servers bustled about, gathering empty plates and glassware. Despite her earlier brush with Alistair's rudeness, Lily found herself smiling as the camera flashed. In that moment, she felt as though she was standing on the edge of a new chapter in her life, even if she had no idea what shape it might take. Soon after, the VIPs began trickling out. Polite nods and measured farewells floated through the lounge. Lily stood near the panoramic windows, gazing down at the city lights. She was still wearing her navy blue dress, feeling somewhat shy about it in a crowd that wore expensive designer pieces. Even so, there'd been no outright ridicule, aside from Alistair's barbed remarks, and Chef Claire herself had openly thanked Lily for her input. As Lily turned from the window, Jason approached, his phone in hand. "I have to step away for a few minutes," he said with a gentle sigh. "Urgent business call. But please stick around if you can. We'll talk before you leave." She nodded, her pulse flickering. "Sure, I'm in no rush." His appreciative glance was warm. "Great. Wait for me by the lounge bar, maybe? I'll join you soon." Without waiting for a response, he headed off, phone already pressed to his ear, his confident stride propelling him toward a quiet corner. Lily did as he asked, drifting to the lounge's small bar area, which boasted ornate stools upholstered in velvet. She perched on one, sipping a glass of water. The bartender, seeing she wasn't there to purchase a cocktail, gave a polite nod and busied himself with cleaning. She let her gaze roam the lounge. Alistair was gone, thank goodness. A few other guests remained, engaged in low conversation near the exit. Chef Claire was speaking with a junior chef, both bent over a binder of notes. Occasionally, Lily caught them glancing her way as if to confirm she was still there. The hush of the lounge gave Lily space to reflect on how drastically her life had changed in just a few weeks. She still felt the tug of daily worries, rent, Sophia's school fees, her aunt's medical checkups. But beneath it all, a growing sense of possibility shimmered. The exposure she'd just received was unlike anything she ever imagined, hobnobbing with elite guests, providing culinary feedback side by side with a top chef. It was surreal. Enjoying yourself? Lily turned at the sudden voice and found Mr. Rowland standing behind her. With his usual air of impeccable politeness, he offered a quick bow of greeting. "Mr. King asked me to ensure you're comfortable," he continued, "and to see if you needed anything." Lily shook her head, mustering a small smile. "I'm fine, thank you. It was a lovely evening." Rowland's gaze was unreadable, though not unkind. "I'm glad to hear it. We're all quite intrigued by your palate, Ms. Reyes. The staff has been whispering. Even Chef Claire mentioned how detailed your feedback was." Her cheeks warmed. "I don't want to be a distraction, I really like tasting things." He inclined his head as if that made perfect sense. "I believe Mr. King hopes to utilize your talents in a more formal capacity, though I can't confirm any details yet." A flutter of excitement stirred in her chest. Formal capacity? She hesitated, uncertain if she was allowed to pry. Like helping in the kitchen? "Possibly," Rowland said, not elaborating. He glanced toward the corridor. "Forgive me, I must check on a staff matter, but if you need anything, I'm at your disposal." With that, he glided away with near-silent footsteps. Time slid by. Lily fiddled with her phone, half tempted to text Aunt Rosa about the evening. But she decided she'd rather tell her face-to-face. She wanted to describe every dish in detail, wanted to gush over the swirl of flavors. Her aunt might tease her for sounding starry-eyed, but Lily knew Rosa would be proud. Eventually, Jason returned, pockets of his jacket weighed down by phone and notepads. He looked relieved to see Lily still waiting. "Apologies for keeping you," he said softly. "Work never sleeps." She offered a sympathetic smile. "I understand." He gestured to a set of plush chairs away from the bar. "Shall we sit?" Grateful for a more private corner, Lily followed him. Once settled, Jason leaned forward, forearms on his knees, looking at her earnestly. "Thank you for coming tonight," he began. "Your feedback was exactly what the chef needed, and you carried yourself with real poise. I know it wasn't easy being in a room full of VIPs. Lily's lashes lowered. "It was intimidating, but I enjoyed it too. The dishes were incredible." "I could tell," he chuckled. "You practically lit up after every bite. It's refreshing to see genuine passion." Silence lingered for a moment, warm and charged. Lily wasn't sure how to handle the directness in his gaze. He looked at her as if he truly saw beyond her uniform and her weary nights. A little swirl of vulnerability expanded in her chest. At length, Jason cleared his throat. "I have a proposition for you if you're open to hearing it." Her heart fluttered. I'm listening." He took a measured breath. "The hotel has been developing a new dining concept, something that blends global cuisines with local influences, giving our guests an innovative tasting journey. Chef Claire's on board, but we need a fresh perspective to ensure the flavors remain grounded, approachable. I was thinking, maybe you could be part of that. Not just a random consultation, but actively involved. Sort of an apprentice or a liaison between the kitchen and our guests, perhaps in an official tasting and quality control role." Lily's eyes widened. She almost dropped her phone. "Me? Officially?" "Yes. We'd still offer training, of course, and your housekeeping position would remain if you prefer, or we could transition you into a hybrid role. You'd maintain a stable income while learning the ropes. This is entirely up to you, though. I won't force it." The enormity of such an offer overwhelmed her. That's... She caught her breath. "I'd love that, but are you sure? I'm not professionally trained. I'm just a single mom who got lucky tasting a few dishes." Jason's jaw set with conviction. "Talent is talent, Lily. Formal training can be arranged, but your innate ability, that can't be taught. And you deserve the chance to grow in a field you clearly love." Her emotions whirled. She pictured her younger self scribbling recipes in a tattered notebook, dreaming of a culinary academy she could never afford. Now the CEO of the city's top hotel was handing her a real shot? It felt too good to be true. She lowered her gaze, voice shaking. "I need to think about it. I have my daughter's schedule to consider, and my aunt depends on me. If I take on more hours or a new role, I'm not sure if I can balance everything." Jason reached into his inner pocket and withdrew a sleek black business card. "Take your time," he said gently, pressing the card into her hand. "But please consider it. If you decide to move forward, call or text me anytime. We'll figure out the logistics. I promise we'll accommodate your family obligations." Lily stared at the card's crisp edges, etched with gold lettering of his personal contact information. She felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. I can't tell you how much this means." He offered a soft, empathetic smile. "It's the least I can do after seeing how hard you've worked, and after tasting how keen your palate is." Rising from his seat, he offered her a hand. She took it hesitantly, letting him guide her up. "Let me walk you out." They strolled to the elevator in companionable silence, the lounge now empty but for a few staff cleaning up. Stepping inside, Lily couldn't help noticing their reflection in the polished doors. Him, tall in his custom suit, her, shorter and simpler in a plain navy dress. The difference in their worlds was stark, and yet, side by side, they looked not so mismatched. She felt a gentle flush on her cheeks at the thought. The elevator whisked them down toward the staff exit. Her heart pounded, uncertain how to end this encounter. Jason lingered by the doors as they opened on the service corridor. "You'll be safe getting home?" he asked quietly. She nodded. "I'll catch a bus that stops a few blocks away. Thank you, though." He studied her face, concern flickering. "Don't hesitate to use a hotel car. They're at your disposal." She mustered a smile. "I'll be all right, but I appreciate it." For a moment, they just looked at each other, neither sure what else to say. Finally, Jason took a step back, hands tucked in his pockets. "Take care, Lily, and remember, you have options. Don't let fear decide." She swallowed, nodding softly, then slipped into the corridor. The elevator doors glided shut behind her, leaving her breathless in a sea of swirling thoughts. "Options," she repeated in her mind, hugging the business card close. Then she hurried along the halls, changing back into her street shoes and exiting through the staff door into the cool night air. Outside, the city's hum cradled her as she reached the nearby bus stop. The breeze rustled stray papers along the sidewalk. Lily's mind still reeled, turning Jason's proposition over and over. It felt like stepping onto the threshold of a dream, an opportunity that could either lift her out of struggle or crash around her if it proved too precarious. She resolved to talk it through with Aunt Rosa, weigh the pros and cons. A single mother couldn't gamble her livelihood on a whim. Yet as Lily boarded the bus and sank into a seat, she found herself smiling faintly. Because deep down, the child in her who once snuck herbs from the neighbor's garden to concoct sauces now soared with cautious delight. She wouldn't let fear decide. Even if there were 1,000 obstacles, she owed it to herself and to Sophia to see where this chance might lead. The bus rattled through city streets, headlights painting shifting shapes on Lily's face. She held Jason's card in her hand the entire ride home, heart thrumming with a new, hopeful rhythm. Early the next morning, Lily's alarm buzzed before sunrise. She had barely slept, too caught up in her swirling thoughts. She silenced her phone, swung her legs off the bed, and spent a moment inhaling, exhaling, grounding herself in the reality of her cramped bedroom with its peeling paint and second-hand furniture. As she sat there, the memory of Jason's words replayed. "You have options. Don't let fear decide." The notion both exhilarated and terrified her. After slipping into old sweatpants and a loose t-shirt, she made her way to the kitchen where Aunt Rosa was already stirring a pot of oatmeal. Rosa glanced up and smiled. "You're up early, mija. Everything okay?" Lily offered a weak grin. "Couldn't sleep. Wanted to catch you before you left for work." She hesitated, nibbling her lower lip. I have to tell you something. About work, actually." Rosa's expression tightened with concern. "They're not cutting hours again, are they? Because we can't handle less income." No, Lily said quickly, guiding her aunt to the small table. Sophia was still asleep, so they had a rare bit of privacy. "Actually, it might be something good." She inhaled deeply. "Jason King, my boss, the CEO, he's offered me a chance to do some tasting work with the hotel's chef, like a formal role, training me in the kitchen, maybe eventually a full transition out of housekeeping." Aunt Rosa stared, spoon momentarily forgotten in her hand. "You're serious? Like, a new job?" "Yes, but it's not official yet. He said I could take my time deciding." Lily cupped her hands around a mug of water. "I'd have to balance shifts, maybe do some short classes. I'm not even sure how the schedule works, but it's a huge opportunity." Rosa reached across the table and squeezed Lily's hand. "Ay, mija, you have such a gift with flavors, you always have. This could be exactly what you've needed, a way out of cleaning floors until your back breaks." Lily swallowed the lump in her throat. "I'm scared, though. I worry about what happens if it goes wrong. If they realize I'm not as good as they think, or if I can't keep up and lose my job entirely." Rosa's eyes filled with gentle sympathy. "I understand. It's risky. But you have a real talent, Lily. Ever since you were a little girl, inventing recipes in my kitchen, remember how you made that weird lemon chili sauce that somehow tasted amazing?" She chuckled. "You're meant for more than scrubbing toilets, and you know it. It's a blessing that someone else has seen it too." Lily exhaled, tears pricking at her eyes. "But what about Sophia? If I have to train at odd hours or do more evening events, I can't leave you with the burden of watching her all the time." Rosa waved a hand dismissively. "Don't start that. You know I love Sophia like she's my own. Besides, I only do part-time cleaning now. We'll manage. Maybe we'll arrange a babysitter for certain nights if needed." Her voice softened. "We'll figure it out together, Lily. Don't let that hold you back from something that could change your life, and Sophia's life too." Lily's heart felt lighter. She rose from the table, wrapping her aunt in a grateful hug. "I love you, Tia. Thank you." "I love you too, mija. Now eat some oatmeal before you leave. Sophia will want to hear all about this later, you know." After a quick breakfast, Lily slipped into the morning air, heading for a local market. She had the day off from the hotel, her first real day off in weeks, and was determined to do something productive. Pick up fresh produce for Aunt Rosa and investigate any local cooking courses that might be affordable. If she was truly going to accept Jason's offer, she wanted to be as prepared as possible. The market bustled with vendors calling out daily specials. She wandered between stalls stacked high with tomatoes, peppers, leafy greens, inhaling the earthy smells. As she selected some bell peppers and onions, Lily found herself mentally tasting recipes: a zesty salsa, a sweet, savory stir-fry. She laughed quietly at her own excitement, heart buoyed by the idea that soon such creativity might be part of her actual job. However, as she moved along, weaving through the crowd, a familiar face jolted her. Standing near a stall selling exotic fruits, she glimpsed Belinda, her former housekeeping supervisor. The woman was scanning a row of passion fruits with critical eyes, but Lily froze. She recalled Belinda's hostility, the times she scolded Lily for needing a break, the scornful way she threatened to fire Lily if she couldn't hack it. Something in Lily twisted. She considered ducking behind a stall to avoid an awkward run-in, but it was too late. Belinda turned, catching Lily's stare. For a moment, both women stood in an uneasy pause. "Lily?" Belinda greeted, her voice guarded. "I didn't know you lived in this neighborhood." "Yeah," Lily managed, forcing politeness. "I'm here for groceries." Belinda glanced at Lily's basket. "Makes sense." Her tone was neutral, but curiosity gleamed in her eyes. "I hear things at the hotel are changing for you. Congrats on that. New arrangement with the chef or something." The sarcasm wasn't blatant, but Lily sensed the subtext. She swallowed. "It's not confirmed, but yes, Mr. King is letting me explore a culinary role." "Mr. King, indeed," Belinda repeated, lips pursed. "You always were lucky, getting the boss's favor." Her gaze flickered over Lily as though searching for a flaw. "Well, I hope you can keep up. The kitchen has an even tougher environment than housekeeping. Not everyone is cut out for it." The words stung, hitting Lily's insecurities, but she mustered a small, resolute nod. "We'll see," she said, refusing to engage in deeper conflict. "I hope you're doing well, Belinda. I'm sure you'll find good staff to fill my old slot." Belinda gave a dismissive shrug, then turned to examine the fruits again. "We always do," she replied shortly. "Good luck, Lily." Feeling both rattled and oddly empowered, Lily moved on. It was surprising how quickly a single discouraging remark could shake her confidence. Still, she remembered Aunt Rosa's encouragement and Jason's unwavering stance that she was ready for more. By the time she finished shopping, Lily's determination was back on solid ground. She couldn't let Belinda's cynicism sway her. Later that afternoon, Lily returned home to find Sophia already back from school, perched at the kitchen table with Aunt Rosa. They were giggling over a craft project for Sophia's next assignment, a miniature solar system made from styrofoam balls. Laughing, Lily set down her groceries and joined them. "Mama!" Sophia beamed. "Look, we're painting the planets. I made Earth swirlier than real Earth. It's pretty, right?" "It's very pretty, sweet pea," Lily agreed, ruffling Sophia's hair. "Hey, I have news. I might be changing jobs soon, kind of. I might help cook at the hotel." Sophia's eyes lit up like fireworks. "Really? You mean you'll be the one making fancy foods for rich people?" Lily chuckled, pressing a kiss on her daughter's temple. "Something like that, but it might mean more training, some classes. I won't be home every night like I am now." Sophia considered this seriously, swirling a paintbrush in purple paint. "Will it make you happier?" The question caught Lily off guard. She found a lump in her throat. "I think so," she admitted. "Cooking always did make me happy, and if this works out, maybe someday we can afford a bigger place. Maybe you can have your own room." Sophia beamed. "Then do it, Mom. I can help Tia Rosa around the house, and you always say if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work." Lily felt tears threaten, hugging Sophia close. "Wise words, little one. Let's hope you're right." That evening, with Aunt Rosa's blessing and Sophia's enthusiastic support, Lily sat on the sofa, Jason's business card in hand. She stared at the sleek lettering, thinking over the potential consequences. Then, gathering her courage, she texted him a short message. "Hi, this is Lily Reyes. I've thought about your offer. I'd love to discuss details about the culinary role whenever you have time." Her heart hammered as she hit send. She half expected no immediate response. Surely a CEO was too busy to reply on a whim. But less than 5 minutes later, her phone chimed. "Jason, great to hear from you, Lily. How about meeting tomorrow at noon in the hotel's main lounge? We can talk through scheduling and next steps. Does that work?" Lily glanced at Aunt Rosa, who was seated across the room, raising a questioning eyebrow. Lily mouthed, "Tomorrow at noon," and Rosa nodded with a thumbs up. Lily tapped back a reply. "That works, thank you." Jason, "Perfect. I'll handle your security pass so you can enter through the main lobby. See you then." She She set the phone aside, feeling a rush of adrenaline. The main lobby, another space usually reserved for top-tier guests, not housekeeping staff. It was a small but significant detail that hammered home just how much her status might shift. It felt exhilarating and frightening at once. The next morning, Lily was up early again, rummaging through her limited wardrobe for something neat enough to wear to this noon meeting. After some deliberation, she chose a simple blouse and a pair of tailored black pants. She combed her hair back in a low ponytail, letting a few tendrils frame her face. Light makeup would have to do. She wanted to appear professional, but not over the top. By 11:30, she left Sophia with Aunt Rosa, promising she'd be back in time to help with dinner. Then Lily caught a bus to the Grand Minerva, her stomach flipping at the idea of entering through the grand marble-floored lobby like a guest rather than sneaking in through the staff entrance. Stepping off the bus, Lily walked through the hotel's revolving doors with cautious awe. The cavernous lobby sparkled, towering pillars, fresh orchids, and a centerpiece fountain that cascaded water into a wide marble basin. Business people and tourists milled about, some checking in at the ornate front desk. Lily paused for a moment, nerves prickling. She'd only glimpsed this area a handful of times from a distance. Housekeeping staff were always instructed to use the back corridors. A discreet security guard approached, offering a polite smile. "Ms. Reyes?" She swallowed. "Yes, that's me. Mr. King's instructions. Please follow me to the lounge. Do you have any bags to check or anything you need assistance with?" No, just me." She clutched her small purse with sweaty palms. "Right this way, then." He led her around a majestic staircase, past a glass wall revealing an inner courtyard, and eventually into the main lounge, a sophisticated space with plush seating, a piano in one corner, and panoramic windows showcasing the city skyline. Light streamed in, giving the room a golden glow. Jason was already there, standing near a low table, phone in hand. He wore a navy sport coat over a crisp shirt, a relaxed yet confident look. The moment he saw Lily, his expression brightened. He thanked the security guard and offered Lily a seat on a sofa. "Good afternoon," he greeted, voice friendly. "How are you feeling?" "A little nervous," she admitted, sinking into the cushioned seat. "But good." He set his phone aside, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "No need to be nervous. You're among friends." A gentle reassurance. "So, let's talk about how we can structure this new role for you." Lily nodded, heart pounding. "I'm all ears." Jason began outlining possibilities. The simplest approach was for Lily to remain on partial housekeeping duties, enough to keep a steady paycheck while gradually working in the kitchen. Chef Claire would assign her to assist with testing and plating a few days a week. Over time, if Lily proved comfortable, they'd phase out her housekeeping role in favor of a culinary apprenticeship. "Of course," Jason continued, "the hours can be flexible around your daughter's needs. We'll coordinate day or evening shifts as best we can." Lily felt relief surge. "That's amazing." "Thank you for understanding." He offered a half smile. "Sophia is your priority. I wouldn't expect you to sacrifice that, but I do believe we can find a balance." They spent the next hour drafting a rough schedule. Lily would continue working nights in housekeeping for now, but only 3 nights a week instead of 5. On 2 or 3 afternoons, she'd join Chef Claire for hands-on training and menu development, finishing earlier in the evening so she could be home at a decent hour. It was a puzzle of time slots, but together they sketched out a workable plan. When they finished, Jason clicked a pen and set it down, leaning back on the sofa. "We'll finalize details with HR, but I think we have our framework." "Thank you," Lily said, voice catching with gratitude. "I never thought I'd have a chance like this." Jason's gaze met hers, sincerity shining. "You earned it. Don't doubt that." A comfortable silence fell, tension easing. Lily felt a sense of deep admiration for this man who seemed to handle everything with composure and empathy. She wondered about his life beyond the polished suit and CEO facade. Did he too have doubts and burdens? Before she could dwell on it, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a faint frown forming. Apologies. I have to step into a meeting soon. Lily rose, smoothing her blouse. Of course. I should go too. Thank you again, Mr. King. He studied her for a moment, a slight tilt to his head. Jason? He corrected gently. Then he walked her to the lounge entrance. You can start your new schedule next week. Meanwhile, keep me posted on any issues. She nodded, feeling a rush of emotions. I will. And thanks again for everything. They exchanged a final smile. Then Lily headed back through the opulent lobby, this time with a decisive lift in her stride. She exited under the shimmering chandeliers and onto the city sidewalk. The midday sun felt warmer, almost celebratory. On the bus ride home, Lily cradled the rough schedule they'd drafted, pressing it to her heart as though it were a winning lottery ticket. She tried to ignore the flicker of doubt that came from years of disappointments, because something about the way Jason believed in her made her want to believe in herself, too. And so, Lily Reyes stepped forward into the unknown, one cautious step at a time, determined to see where this new path might lead. Monday arrived bright and early, and with it, Lily's first official day under her newly arranged schedule. She rode the bus to the Grand Minerva feeling a swirl of excitement and nerves. Her stop was earlier than usual. Rather than arriving for the late-night housekeeping shift, she was now stepping into the hotel at midday to assist Chef Claire. The weight of her old housekeeping uniform was gone. In its place, she wore practical black pants, a plain white blouse, and sturdy shoes appropriate for a kitchen environment. As she walked through the front lobby, a privilege she was still getting used to, she noticed a couple of co-workers from housekeeping exchanging startled looks. One even gave her a small thumbs up, seeming to have heard about her new opportunity. Lily mustered a friendly smile, hoping they didn't resent her for leaving them short-staffed, even if only part-time. Mr. Rowland awaited her near the elevator bank with a visitor's badge and a calm, formal expression. Good afternoon, Ms. Reyes. Chef Claire is expecting you on level 7. Allow me to escort you. Thank you, she said, following him into the elevator. The polished walls reflected her anxious face back at her, and she took a steadying breath, trying to quell the butterflies in her stomach. When the doors opened onto the kitchen's corridor, Mr. Rowland guided her through bustling staff who pushed carts laden with fresh produce and crates of specialty ingredients. The air smelled of garlic, fresh herbs, and simmering stock. Lily's senses awakened. She felt an almost electric excitement in the air. Here we are, Rowland said, pausing at a glass door labeled Research and Development Kitchen, authorized personnel only. Best of luck, Ms. Reyes. He departed with a courteous nod. Stepping inside, Lily saw that this wasn't the standard production kitchen she had glimpsed before. It was smaller, more specialized, like a culinary workshop. Polished counters lined each wall, with high-end appliances and carefully labeled jars of spices. In the center, a marble-topped island hosted bowls of produce, samples of sauces, and half-prepared dishes. Chef Claire stood at one station wearing her crisp white jacket, meticulously plating something. Two junior chefs hustled nearby, measuring ingredients. At Lily's entrance, Chef Claire glanced up. Her intense gaze flicked over Lily's outfit and posture. Then she gave a single nod. You're on time. Good. She beckoned Lily closer without pausing her delicate plating. We have a busy day of menu trials. Grab an apron from the hook. Let's see what you can do. A flutter of nerves twined with anticipation. Lily found a white apron, slipping it over her blouse. She quickly tied her hair back, ensuring no strands escaped. Her pulse kicked up a notch. This was it, a real start in a professional kitchen. First, Chef Claire said briskly, wiping her hands on a towel, we're testing a new marinade for our fusion grill concept. You'll help sous chef Paolo weigh spices and prep the marinade base. After that, we'll do blind taste comparisons with the old marinade to see if the new recipe is an improvement. Lily nodded, heartbeat pounding with excitement. I'm ready. The chef handed her a typed recipe sheet filled with notes, quantities of chili paste, soy sauce, ginger, even a pinch of star anise. Lily scanned the steps, mentally tasting the combination. She understood the balancing act. Too much chili would overpower the star anise, too little salt would leave the marinade flat. Paolo, a lanky man in his mid-30s, led Lily to a stainless steel table stacked with small bowls and measuring spoons. He eyed her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "You're the new tasting consultant, huh? Didn't expect you so soon." "Sorry," Lily said quietly. "I hope I'm not in your way." He shrugged. "Chef Claire wants you here, so I'm good with it. Let's just get this marinade right." His tone wasn't warm exactly, but it lacked hostility. Lily took it as a positive sign. For the next hour, Lily and Paolo weighed out each ingredient, cross-checking the recipe. Lily's practiced nose picked up subtle notes in the chili paste. She guessed it contained dried shrimp or fish sauce, adding a hidden umami dimension. She quietly mentioned it to Paolo, who raised an eyebrow, admitting he wasn't aware of that nuance. They adjusted the mixture, stirring until it gleamed a deep, fragrant red. Once the marinade was ready, they poured it over thinly sliced sirloin in 2 separate bowls, one with the new marinade, one with the old. After a short marinating time, another junior chef grilled samples from each batch. Lily tried each piece, focusing intently on the interplay of heat, salt, and sweetness. With the new marinade, the star anise note was just shy of overshadowing the chili. "It needs a little more brightness," Lily murmured to Paolo. "Maybe a squeeze of fresh lime near the end, or a hint of vinegar in the marinade." Chef Claire, circulating among the stations, overheard. "Explain," she demanded, plucking a sample from the plate. Lily swallowed, nerves buzzing. "It's very savory, delicious, but I think to truly pop it needs a minor acidic lift. Otherwise, the star anise lingers on the palate without a clean finish." The chef chewed thoughtfully, then nodded. "Agreed." She glanced at Paolo. "Add a teaspoon of white vinegar to the marinade and grill a fresh batch." She shot Lily a faint, approving look before moving on to another project. Lily breathed a silent sigh of relief. She continued working with Paolo, refining the marinade until Chef Claire gave it a decisive nod. Then it was on to the next test, dessert prototypes. Time raced by in a blur of stirring, tasting, adjusting. Lily thrived on it, forgetting the outside world as she submerged herself in the artistry of flavors. Gone was the self-consciousness of a housekeeping uniform. Here, she was just another pair of hands, another palate working toward the perfect dish. Around mid-afternoon, Chef Claire called for a short break. The staff stepped into a modest lounge area where they could sip water or coffee. Lily took a moment to rest her feet and check her phone. Aunt Rosa had texted a quick update that Sophia was doing her homework, all good. Lily felt relief flood her. At least things at home were calm. Suddenly, a voice spoke by her shoulder. "Not too overwhelming so far?" She turned to see sous chef Paolo, arms folded, leaning against the wall. Lily managed a small, warm grin. "It's busy, but I love it. I'm still finding my footing." He nodded. "Chef Claire can be intense. Don't take it personally if she barks. She wants perfection." A pause. "By the way, you've got a good instinct for balancing flavors. You sure you never trained anywhere?" She shook her head, a shy laugh escaping. "No formal training. I just taste things, you know?" Paolo's eyes flickered with mild respect. "Well, keep at it. The kitchen talk says Mr. King specifically requested you. That's rare." Lily's cheeks warmed. "He believes in my palate, I guess. I'm still surprised he's giving me this chance." Paolo shrugged, pushing away from the wall. "Could be he sees something special. Or maybe he just wants new angles for marketing. Either way, we do our jobs. See you in 5, okay?" He strolled off. Lily stayed behind, pondering his words. Part of her worried about how other employees might interpret Jason's interest in her. Would they suspect favoritism or worse, a rumor of personal entanglement. She resolved to keep her focus on the craft of cooking, not the speculation. As the break ended, Lily immersed herself in the next challenge: pastries. Chef Claire handed her a piping bag filled with strawberry mousse. "We're trying a new dessert layering technique," she explained. "Pastry shells, custard, fruit mousse, then a caramel drizzle. I need you to see if the flavors align or if we need to adjust the fruit's sweetness." Lily stood at a prep counter near a window overlooking the city skyline. Carefully, she piped a swirl of mousse into a line of sample cups, sprinkling them with bits of fresh berries. Once the pastries were assembled, she tried one. The taste was light and fragrant, but the caramel drizzle at the end was too sharp, like burnt sugar. Lily's nose wrinkled slightly as she turned to Chef Claire. "The mousse is lovely," she said, "but the caramel's bitterness overpowers. Maybe reduce the cooking time or swirl in a hint of cream to round out the edges." Claire tasted, nodded curtly. "All right. Sous chef, fix the caramel. I want at least 3 more test runs. Lily, go help him. Show him exactly what you mean about adding cream at the right moment." Lily's cheeks flamed with a mixture of pride and nerves. It was exhilarating to be taken seriously in the kitchen, yet every time Chef Claire acknowledged her opinions, Lily felt the burden of responsibility. She hurried to the stove, meeting Paolo again to adjust the sugar and cream ratio. Step by step, they coaxed out a silky caramel sauce, golden and rich without the acrid notes of overcooked sugar. The rush of satisfaction Lily felt when the chef declared it much improved was unlike anything she'd experienced in her old housekeeping routine. The entire day left her mind in a state of creative bliss, forging new flavors, brainstorming finishing touches. By the time the clock neared 5 p.m., Lily's feet ached, but her heart soared. The rush finally ebbed, and Chef Claire gave Lily a terse wave of dismissal. "Not bad for your first day," she said, as close to praise as the formidable chef seemed to get. "Keep working on precision. We'll do more advanced tests next time." "Thank you," Lily replied, wiping sweat from her brow. She removed her apron and tidied her station. "I really appreciate this chance." Chef Claire's lips curved into the slightest of smiles. "We'll see how you handle the dinner rush in a real setting soon enough. Good work today." With that, Lily stepped out of the R&D kitchen, returning to the hallway. Exhaustion tugged at her bones, but her spirit felt strangely renewed. She checked her watch. An hour or so to rest before she'd switch to a shortened housekeeping shift that night. It wasn't an ideal schedule, but it would pay the bills while she trained. She decided a quick coffee might be necessary to power through. As she neared the elevator bank, she nearly collided with a tall figure who turned the corner swiftly, Jason King himself, phone in hand. He halted just short of running into her. "Lily!" he exclaimed, startled. "Sorry, I didn't see you." She offered a breathless laugh. "It's okay. Busy day?" "You have no idea," he said, slipping his phone into his pocket. His glance traveled over her, noting the slight smudge of flour on her sleeve and the sheen of sweat on her brow. "Your first official day in the kitchen, right? How did it go?" Lily smiled, heart skittering. "It was fantastic, intense, but I loved it." "Good. Chef Claire texted me. She said you've got a sharp palate and you're not afraid to speak up." Jason's eyes shone with approval. "That's exactly what I hoped for." Lily blinked at the idea of the formidable chef texting Jason about her. "I'm still learning," she said modestly. "But it's a dream so far." He nodded. "I'm glad. And if there's anything you need, equipment, uniform, schedule adjustments, just let me know. I'll make sure you're taken care of." Her pulse fluttered. She couldn't help noticing how the hallway lights softened Jason's features, accentuating the warmth in his eyes. "Thank you, Mr. King. Jason," she corrected. "I really appreciate it." He started to say something else, but a beep from his phone diverted his attention. He glanced at the screen, frowning. I have a meeting in 10 minutes with some rather pushy investors. Let's catch up soon, though. Maybe a proper check-in on your progress? I'd like that, Lily said softly. Jason gave a final nod, and they parted ways. He headed toward the executive wing, she toward the elevator down to the staff area. Yet she couldn't stop the small smile lingering on her lips. So much of her life had changed in just a short time, all thanks to one late-night encounter when she was caught sleeping on the job. That night, as Lily finished her truncated housekeeping shift and took the bus home, she replayed every new technique she'd learned, each suggestion Chef Claire had praised. Aunt Rosa and Sophia were waiting at the kitchen table, eager for stories. Lily regaled them with details about the marinade experiment and the near-disastrous caramel fiasco. Sophia giggled at each comedic slip-up. Aunt Rosa's eyes sparkled with pride. When Lily finally crawled into bed, her body was exhausted, but her mind brimmed with the flavors, aromas, and achievements of the day. She fell asleep wondering what tomorrow might bring, new recipes to master, new challenges to face. And somewhere at the back of her thoughts, she pictured Jason's encouraging smile, reflecting a confidence that her dream wasn't just a fantasy. Little did she know that her budding success in the kitchen would soon attract attention, both welcome and dangerous, from those who preferred the hotel's old ways and from others who saw in Lily's rise an opportunity to exploit. For now, though, nestled in the modest comfort of her aunt's home, Lily Reyes allowed herself a well-earned rest, hopeful for whatever her next step might be. By the following week, Lily had begun to settle, just a little, into her dual life at the Grand Minerva. Mornings or afternoons in the R&D kitchen, learning under Chef Claire. Evenings spent doing light housekeeping duties, enough to maintain her regular paycheck. It was an exhausting pace, but an exhilarating one. Sophia and Aunt Rosa helped at home, keeping things stable so Lily could chase her unexpected opportunity. Her progress didn't go unnoticed. A few co-workers in housekeeping offered shy congratulations, and one or two from the kitchen staff began warming to her presence. She still caught occasional skeptical looks, like from Belinda, her former supervisor, or from staff who couldn't fathom how a cleaning lady suddenly had the CEO's backing. But Lily did her best to ignore the gossip. She had bigger fish to fry, or rather, bigger recipes to perfect. One bright afternoon, Lily was in the R&D kitchen comparing vinaigrettes with sous chef Paolo. They each whipped up 3 variations, adjusting acidity and sweetness. Lily added a hint of lime zest to one, plus a pinch of honey. Paolo tried an infusion of roasted garlic in another. Chef Claire breezed by, sampling each with a crisp efficiency. When Chef Claire reached Lily's bowl, she took a measured sip. A flicker of surprise crossed her face before she gave a curt nod of approval. "Balanced," she remarked. "Who taught you to combine citrus with honey like that?" "No one," Lily admitted, flushing slightly. "I just tasted in my head first." The chef said nothing else, moving on to Paolo's bowl. But that small acknowledgement set Lily's pulse racing. She'd discovered that while Chef Claire rarely lavished compliments, each subtle nod or good felt like winning a gold medal. It fueled Lily's passion. She thrived on pushing boundaries, coaxing flavors to sing in harmony. After Chef Claire left, Paolo nudged Lily's arm. "Seems she liked yours best. Not bad for a so-called amateur." Lily smiled shyly, grateful for Paolo's growing camaraderie. "I guess I'm picking up a few tricks from you guys." He snorted. "Don't be modest. You have a gift." He was about to say more when a timid voice interrupted. A young intern, Kayla, approached with wide eyes. "Chef Claire needs you both at the test plating station. New appetizer just arrived from the prep kitchen and she wants immediate feedback." Lily and Paolo exchanged glances, then followed Kayla to the plating area. They arrived to find an unfamiliar dish. A small, elegant stack of sliced beets, goat cheese, and microgreens, drizzled with what looked like a balsamic reduction. Chef Claire stood off to one side, arms folded, eyes narrowed. try it," she said tersely. "The main kitchen's development team claims this belongs on the new fine dining menu. Let's see if they're right." Lily picked up a fork, carefully cutting through the layered beets. The goat cheese was tangy. The beets had an earthy sweetness, but then she noticed a sharp bitterness creeping up. She tasted again, focusing on the sauce. "The balsamic is reduced too far," she said quietly. "It's almost scorched, giving it a burned aftertaste." Paolo nodded in agreement. "The concept is fine, but they overcooked the reduction. If we want that sweet tangy profile, we should keep it from reaching that borderline char." Chef Claire pursed her lips. "I suspected as much. Well, good to have confirmation." She snapped her fingers at Kayla. "Get a fresh batch from downstairs. Tell them to watch the heat. No burnt balsamic." Her gaze shifted to Lily. "Keep up the evaluations. We'll finalize the day's menu proposals soon, and I want them perfect." "Yes, Chef," Lily managed, fighting a grin at the notion that she was truly part of this process. Later that afternoon, after Lily finished cleaning her station, Chef Claire approached, a folder in her hand. "Here," she said, thrusting it toward Lily. "Menu prototypes for next week's VIP lunch. I want you to review them tonight. Note any concerns. We'll do a tasting tomorrow morning." Lily stared at the sheaf of papers. "All of them?" "Yes. Study them, bring suggestions. Mr. King wants us ready for a high-profile investor meeting." Claire's tone turned dry. "And you seem to have his ear." Lily's heart skipped. She wasn't sure if that was a subtle accusation or simply stating a fact, but the mention of Jason piqued her curiosity. "Investor meeting," she repeated. "Right." With an abrupt nod, Chef Claire walked off, leaving Lily clutching the folder. The faint echo of footsteps lingered in the stainless steel corridors. Lily exhaled slowly. She knew about some investors, like that unpleasant Mr. Allister, but the chef's words hinted that this lunch was especially important. Perhaps new backers or expansions for the hotel. She shrugged it off and headed to the staff lounge for a quick break, flipping through the folder. Complex recipes jumped out at her. Exotic amuse-bouches, layered entrees with East meets West fusion, desserts featuring foreign fruits. Her mouth watered just imagining them, and her mind raced, already anticipating which elements might need balance. That evening, Lily changed into her housekeeping uniform for a short shift. It felt odd, stepping back into the role of a cleaner after wearing a chef's apron all day. Yet she was grateful for the reliable paycheck. She swept corridors, replaced toiletries, and bantered lightly with longtime housekeeping colleagues. Some teased her gently about being fancy now. Others eyed her with an aloofness that bordered on envy. Lily tried not to let it sting. Midway through the shift, as she was freshening a VIP suite's bathroom, her phone buzzed. She dried her hands and checked the screen. A text from an unknown number. Unknown. "Ms. Reyes, I have some news regarding Mr. King's upcoming investor lunch. I'd like to discuss a possible arrangement that could benefit us both. Let's talk soon. A." She blinked, frowning. "A?" Then her stomach twisted. Allister, the rude investor who'd once sneered at her in the lounge. Why would he have her number? Her mind buzzed with alarm. She typed back, "Lily, I'm sorry, how did you get my number?" "I'm not sure what arrangement you mean." A swift reply came. "Allister, I have my sources. Let's meet. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., in the hotel's Orchid Bar. This is a chance for you to earn more than just a few kitchen tips. Don't ignore it." Lily stared, unsettled. She couldn't imagine what Allister wanted. Earning more? A chance from him felt ominous, especially given his earlier hostility. She considered ignoring it, but fear of antagonizing a powerful investor nagged at her. She typed a cautious response. "Lily, I'm not sure if I can make it. I have my schedule with the kitchen and housekeeping." He answered almost instantly. "Allister, cancel. This is urgent. Don't be foolish. Opportunities like this don't come often." Anger flared. Alistair's tone reeked of arrogance, as if Lily were a pawn to be moved at his command. Yet she was also aware that an investor like him might have the power to sabotage her budding position if she refused. She breathed deeply, unsure how to proceed. Finally she typed, "Lily, I'll think about it. I can't promise anything." No reply came. For the rest of her shift, the text lingered in her mind like a dark cloud overshadowing the satisfaction she'd felt earlier that day. Why was Alistair suddenly interested in her? What scheme could he possibly have that required her cooperation? When she returned home late that night, Lily confided in Aunt Rosa. Together they weighed the risks. Rosa scowled at Alistair's presumptuous tone. "He sounds like trouble, Lily," she said firmly. "You're under no obligation to meet him." "I know," Lily admitted, hugging her knees on the living room sofa. "But if he's a major investor, he might have influence over Mr. King or Chef Claire. He could threaten my position." Rosa's eyes narrowed. "And if you go, maybe he'll try to pressure you into something shady. Sometimes these people want bribes or to exploit your relationship with the boss. Mija, be careful." Lily nodded. "I will. I'll keep my guard up. But maybe I'll see what he wants, just to be safe. Jason said I could come to him with problems, but I'm not sure if I should bother him with this yet." Rosa sighed, reaching over to pat Lily's hand. "Just promise you won't agree to anything. And if you feel uncomfortable, walk away. Better to lose a job than lose your dignity." The next morning, Lily awoke early again, a pit in her stomach whenever she thought of Alistair. She tried to push it aside as she showered, dressed, and prepared for the taste-testing session with Chef Claire. Focus on the food, she told herself. Focus on what truly matters. At the R&D kitchen, Lily found Chef Claire already sipping coffee, studying the menu prototypes Lily had reviewed overnight. The chef beckoned her over. "You made notes here," she said, tapping a page. "You suggest swapping out tamarind for a lighter vinegar in the sauce. Why?" Lily inhaled, stepping forward. "Tamarind is rich and sour, but it can dominate everything else. For a delicate fish entree like this, we might want a brighter, cleaner acidity so the fish isn't overshadowed." Chef Claire eyed Lily carefully, then offered a faint smile. "Yes, that's exactly the issue we ran into last time." "Good catch." She marked the folder, then handed it to Lily. "You'll help finalize the sauce today. Then we move to final plating. Mr. King wants a flawless presentation for tomorrow's investor lunch. Keep that in mind." Her pulse jumped. "Understood, chef." The day passed in a flurry of marinade tweaks, sauce reductions, and plating drills. Lily hardly had a moment to remember Alistair's ominous text, until Chef Claire mentioned the investor lunch again, reminding Lily that these were the same VIPs who often financed expansions or upgrades to the hotel. Could Alistair be among them? A chill prickled Lily's skin, but she forced herself to concentrate on the work at hand. That evening, Lily clocked out from the kitchen, footsore and exhausted but proud of the progress made. She recalled Alistair's insistent demand to meet at 7 p.m. in the Orchid Bar. Glancing at the time, 6:15, she realized she had only 45 minutes to decide if she would go. Sighing, Lily paused in a staff corridor, leaning against the wall. She typed a quick message to Aunt Rosa. "Still not sure about meeting that man, but I need to find out what he's up to. I'll be careful." Her aunt texted back, "Okay, Mija. Just keep your phone on and be safe." Steeling herself, Lily changed into a simple blouse and skirt she had tucked away for emergencies. Housekeeping uniforms wouldn't be suitable in the fancy Orchid Bar. She gathered her courage and took the elevator up to the bar level, each ding of the floors fueling her nerves. Why was she walking into this potential trap? Perhaps because she sensed that ignoring Alistair could endanger her new role anyway. She wanted to be sure of her next move. At 6:59 p.m., Lily stepped out of the elevator onto the lavish lounge floor. A plush carpet led to glass doors etched with orchid motifs. Inside, low lights and gentle piano music lent an air of sophistication. Wealthy patrons sipped cocktails, murmuring quietly. Lily's heart pounded. Scanning the bar, she spotted Alistair in a corner booth, swirling a tumbler of whiskey. He caught sight of her and raised his glass in a mocking salute. Summoning her nerve, Lily approached. The booth's upholstery was a dark burgundy, reminiscent of vintage glamour. She slid in across from him, forcing a polite smile. "Thank you for coming," Alistair said, a smug curl to his lips. "I knew you'd see reason." Lily bristled at his tone. "I'm here to find out what you want. Then I'm leaving." He chuckled, leaning forward. "Straight to the point. All right, I'll be direct as well. You're close to Jason King. He's grooming you for some big culinary show, yes? Possibly more." He let the insinuation hang in the air, and Lily's cheeks flamed with indignation. "My relationship with Mr. King is professional," she stated, voice tight. "Whatever you're implying—" "I'm not implying anything," Alistair interrupted smoothly. "I'm just stating what's obvious. You have the CEO's ear. He trusts you, and tomorrow's investor lunch is crucial to the hotel's future expansions." Lily recalled Chef Claire's mention of the new menu for an important investor meeting. "What does that have to do with me?" Alistair sipped his whiskey, eyes cold. "We stand to make a fortune if everything goes according to plan. But some of us, my associates, want to ensure certain proposals pass. If Jason decides otherwise, we could lose millions. That's where you come in." Her stomach twisted. "Me? How?" "Use that influence. Steer Jason's choices. Help him see that certain expansions are beneficial." Alistair set his glass down with a faint clink. "In return, you'll receive a consulting fee, a substantial one." A wave of revulsion washed over Lily. "You want me to manipulate him? Over business deals I know nothing about?" "You don't need details," Alistair said dismissively. "Just plant seeds. Encourage him to accept our proposals. Tell him how brilliant the expansions would be. You see him often in the kitchen. He listens to you, doesn't he?" Lily's mind reeled. This was exactly the kind of shady situation Aunt Rosa had warned her about. "No," she said firmly, voice trembling with both anger and fear. "That's unethical. I'm not for sale." Alistair's smug expression wavered, a trace of annoyance crossing his features. "Think carefully. The hotel's environment is precarious. If you refuse, if you cross me, it won't take much for me to ruin your little culinary dream, or have you demoted back to cleaning toilets?" Lily's heart hammered in her chest. She clenched her fists under the table. "I won't betray Jason's trust. I won't lie for you." He leaned forward, his tone turning icy. "You're a nobody, Lily Reyes. A single mom from the slums, plucked off a mop bucket into a high-end kitchen. Don't fool yourself. This is a Cinderella story that can end just as quickly. Think of your child. Think of your aunt. You need security, money. I can make this easy or very, very hard." A chill coursed through Lily's entire body. She rose from the booth, refusing to let him see her trembling. "I won't do it," she repeated, voice tight. "Leave me alone." Alistair smirked, leaning back. "You'll regret this." She spun and left, forcing her steps to remain steady until she reached the elevator. Inside, alone, tears pricked her eyes. Fear, anger, and a fierce protectiveness for her family collided. She despised how he threatened her livelihood, yet she couldn't stoop to shady dealings, not after everything Jason had done to give her a chance. Wiping her eyes, Lily resolved to keep silent about Alistair's approach, at least until she decided how best to protect herself. As the elevator descended, she tried to steady her breathing. She had to be strong for Sophia's sake. No investor's intimidation would force her to compromise her integrity. Still, a gnawing terror clung to her gut. Alistair was powerful. He could easily whisper a few lies into the right ears. Where would that leave her then? Yet Lily clung to one thought. Jason had promised to help if she ever faced trouble. Perhaps she should trust him. But would he believe her, or suspect she'd made a deal behind his back? The swirling doubts tormented her the entire ride home. In the days to come, Lily would discover that crossing Alistair would set into motion conflicts far larger than a single marinade recipe or dessert plating. And as the investor lunch loomed, so did the realization that secrets and alliances could shift the entire balance of her budding career and fragile heart. The day of the investor lunch arrived with a nervous energy crackling through the Grand Minerva's kitchens and banquet halls. Lily's morning began in the R&D kitchen, finalizing the menu alongside Chef Claire and sous chef Paolo. At 10 a.m. sharp, the team transferred ingredients and plating supplies to an exclusive dining suite on the hotel's top floor, a private room known for hosting high-stakes gatherings. The suite commanded a sweeping view of the skyline, matching the high-profile status of the guests to come. Lily could practically feel the tension radiating from Chef Claire as they organized each station. Every detail had to be perfect: linens pressed, silverware gleaming, garnishes arranged like miniature works of art. Jason King was expected to join the luncheon, guiding discussions about the hotel's expansion plans. In whispered hallway chatter, staff alluded to how vital this meeting was for future projects and how some investors might have conflicting agendas. Trying to stifle her lingering anxiety, Lily focused on her tasks. She prepped the amuse-bouche of seared scallop with a delicate citrus glaze, carefully placing microgreens on each plate. Chef Claire hovered, scanning every element, occasionally issuing terse directives. Lily fought to keep her hands steady. Memories of Alistair's ultimatum churned in her mind, but she forced herself to concentrate on the craftsmanship of the meal. At noon, the investors began trickling in. Lily discreetly peered from behind the serving station, glimpsing polished shoes, designer suits, and the hushed bustle of bodyguards or personal assistants. Among them was Alistair, sharp-eyed and confident as he entered. Lily's pulse hammered. She prayed he wouldn't bring trouble, or worse, twist the lunch's outcome in some destructive way. Moments later, Jason arrived, shaking hands with the investors. He wore a sleek charcoal suit, exuding calm leadership. When he caught Lily's eye from across the room, he offered a faint, reassuring nod before returning to conversation. It comforted her more than she expected. She reminded herself that his faith in her was genuine, and that she wouldn't betray his trust, no matter Alistair's threats. Amid the polite chatter, waitstaff began offering champagne. Chef Claire signaled for Lily, Paolo, and a few junior chefs to start plating the first course, an intricate trio of hors d'oeuvres. Lily busied herself drizzling a yuzu reduction, ensuring each portion looked identical. Then she helped arrange the plates onto rolling carts, and the servers whisked them out. Peeking around the corner, Lily watched as the guests took their seats at a long table draped in white linen. Jason welcomed them with a brief speech about the Grand Minerva's upcoming expansions. The click of utensils soon replaced formalities as the first course was sampled. Though she couldn't hear all the conversation, she caught snippets of compliments. Exquisite presentation. Remarkably balanced flavors. Relief flowed through her veins. By the time the second course, a silky soup with delicate herb oil, went out, Lily felt a cautious pride. Each dish was executed with precision. Chef Claire's brow remained furrowed until they received more positive murmurs. Then a faint hint of relief eased her stern features, and she allowed Lily a small smile of satisfaction. But no sooner had Lily turned back to the plating table than she sensed a presence behind her. She jumped, nearly upsetting a bowl of garnish. It was Alistair, having left the dining table under some pretense. He loomed near the staff station, expression inscrutable. "You're doing well," he murmured in a tone that dripped with false congeniality. "Lovely meal." Lily's heart thudded. She swallowed hard, keeping her voice low. "You shouldn't be back here, sir. This area is for staff." He smirked. "Don't worry, I won't linger. Just wanted to see how you're feeling. Any second thoughts about our little discussion?" A flicker of panic shot through her. She gripped her spoon too tight. "I told you, I'm not playing that game. Please leave me to my work." His eyes narrowed. "You're being very unwise. I hoped you'd see reason. After all, a single mother needs financial security, doesn't she? Think of what you could gain. Lily, what's going on?" Chef Claire's voice cut in, her gaze shifting between them. Alistair smoothly turned to face the chef. "Just complimenting the staff on an excellent course," he lied, flashing a veneer of charm. "Forgive me, chef. I'm a curious investor. Couldn't resist peeking at the kitchen magic." Chef Claire's eyes flicked to Lily for confirmation. Lily forced a tight nod, swallowing the hot anger in her throat. "Yes, chef," she managed. "He was just thanking us." Chef Claire's expression remained guarded. "Well, the next course is nearly ready, Mr. Alistair. I suggest you return to the table so we can maintain our schedule." "Of course," Alistair said, sending Lily a parting glance that promised further conflict. Then he strolled away, his footsteps echoing. Chef Claire frowned. "If any guest tries to distract you again, refer them to me." "Understood?" Lily nodded mutely, grateful for the implicit protection, but her stomach churned with worry, bracing for Alistair's next move. As the luncheon progressed, each dish brought a wave of commentary from the investors. The flavors were a hit, so Lily gleaned from the servers' updates, and Jason contributed warm praise for the culinary team. The final dessert course featured Lily's recommended caramel technique, and she couldn't help the flush of pride when applause filtered in from the dining room. Finally, the meal concluded. Jason rose to announce a short recess before the investors would reconvene to discuss finance and expansion proposals. While the guests began dispersing to make phone calls or stretch their legs, Lily helped clear plates and reset stations, her heart still pounding from Alistair's intrusion. Through the open doors, she saw Jason briefly intercept Alistair, exchanging a few tight words. She wished she knew what they were saying. Moments later, Jason approached the kitchen station, scanning for Chef Claire. Instead, he found Lily placing utensils into a tray. "Hey," he said softly, stepping closer. "I need a word." Her cheeks warmed and she set aside the tray. "Of course, Mr. King." "Jason," she corrected. He guided her a bit away from curious staff, finding a quiet corner, his brow creased with concern. "I saw Alistair near the staff area earlier. Is everything okay?" She hesitated, stomach twisting. Confessing Alistair's threats felt like dropping a grenade into the stability she'd built. But recalling Jason's promise, "Come to me if you're ever in trouble," and remembering how Alistair could sabotage her, she decided honesty was best. She took a breath, voice trembling. "He cornered me again, asking me to influence you about certain expansion proposals in return for money." Jason's expression darkened, a storm cloud brewing in his eyes. "He what?" "I said no," Lily continued quickly. "But he keeps pressuring me, threatening me. I'm worried he might—" Jason's jaw clenched. "Threatening you is crossing the line. You should have told me sooner." Tears pricked Lily's eyes. "I didn't want to bother you or cause conflict." He exhaled sharply. "Lily, this is serious. Alistair has a history of pushing boundaries, but I never imagined he'd stoop to threatening an employee, especially you." His gaze softened. "Thank you for telling me." She bit her lip. "What will you do?" "I'll handle him," Jason stated, resolve hardening his tone. "And I'll ensure your position here is safe, no matter what he tries." Lily's breath shook with relief, but also fear of escalation. "He's powerful. I don't want you to get into trouble either." A faint, wry smile tugged at Jason's lips. "Don't worry about me. He's powerful, yes, but the King Group doesn't bow to bullies." He reached out and gently squeezed her shoulder, his touch reassuring. "Thank you for standing by your principles. I'll make sure you're protected." Her chest felt tight with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. Jason glanced at the watch on his wrist. "I have to go back. Another meeting plus Q&A with the investors." But please, if he approaches you again, come find me immediately." She nodded. "Okay." He paused, looking as though he wanted to say more, but the presence of staff nearby halted him. Offering a final nod, he strode off, posture rigid with controlled anger. Lily watched him disappear into the corridor, relief and trepidation mingling in her. She only hoped that handling Alistair wouldn't spark worse retaliation. Despite the tense undercurrent, the luncheon concluded successfully. Rumor had it that many investors were pleased with the proposed expansions, though final negotiations would take days. Lily discreetly helped pack leftover ingredients, ignoring the swirl of VIPs departing. Chef Claire seemed satisfied, if exhausted, by the event's success. Soon enough, Lily was free to go. She changed into casual clothes, phone in hand, her nerves still keyed up. She wondered if Jason had confronted Alistair face to face. Part of her wanted to find out more. Another part was desperate to get home, hug Sophia, and forget the day's stress. Exiting through a staff corridor, Lily paused when her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Her heart pounded, expecting it to be Alistair. But the message, to her surprise, was from Chef Claire. "Chef Claire. Good job today. Investors loved the menu. I'm staying late to finalize new proposals for upcoming events. If you're interested, come to the R&D kitchen tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. We'll refine some recipes. Could use your input." Lily blinked at the screen. A genuine invitation from Chef Claire? Usually, Lily was scheduled to arrive mid-morning, but 8 a.m. was earlier than normal, indicating that the chef genuinely wanted her input. It was a welcome spark of positivity. She typed a grateful reply confirming she'd be there. But before she could tuck her phone away, another message arrived, this time from an unfamiliar number labeled private. The text read, "Private. This isn't over. You've made your choice. Don't blame me when everything falls apart." Lily's stomach knotted. Alistair? Using another line? The threatening undertone chilled her. She stared at the words, heart hammering. No matter how much Jason promised protection, the investor clearly intended to retaliate. Lily wrapped her arms around herself, trying to steady her breathing. She needed to trust Jason, Chef Claire, and the possibilities unfolding in her new role. She refused to be blackmailed. Still, as she finally left the hotel for the evening, that last message echoed in her mind. The sense of dread settled over her like a cloud. One small spark of hope came from the knowledge that Chef Claire's invitation meant Lily's culinary journey was advancing. If she clung to that dream and Jason's assurance, maybe she could weather Alistair's threats. But deep down, she knew the battle was only beginning, and the stakes would soon rise higher than she'd ever imagined. Early the next morning, Lily woke before dawn, the tension in her chest still clinging from Alistair's cryptic warning. Despite her restless night, she forced herself up. There was too much at stake to shrink away now. She quickly dressed in comfortable kitchen attire, mind racing with potential flavor profiles as a distraction from her fears. Chef Claire was expecting her at 8 a.m. for a new round of R&D, and Lily intended to prove that she belonged there, no matter who tried to scare her off. Outside, the gray light of pre-dawn stretched across the sky. Aunt Rosa, sensing Lily's unease, offered a tight hug in the doorway. "Stay safe," she murmured. "Text me if anything feels off, and remember, Jason said he'd protect you." Lily nodded, steeling herself with that reassurance. She arrived at the Grand Minerva's main lobby just as the clock hit 7:45. The staff recognized her by now. No longer an anonymous figure in a housekeeping uniform, but a budding part of the culinary team. She felt a glimmer of pride each time she passed by onlookers who had once underestimated her. As she rode the elevator up to the R&D kitchen, her phone chimed with a message. Her pulse quickened, half expecting another threat, but the screen showed Jason's name. "Jason, good morning. Headed into a meeting soon, but wanted to check on you. How are you holding up?" A wave of warmth filled her chest. She typed a quick reply. Tired, but determined. Going to meet Chef Claire now. Thank you for everything. His response came immediately. Jason, you got this. If you need anything, I'm here. She inhaled deeply, letting that small but powerful show of support buoy her confidence. In the corridor, staff hustled with trays of produce. Lily turned into the R&D kitchen where she found Chef Claire studying a large whiteboard loaded with scribbled recipes and notations. Morning, Chef, Lily greeted quietly. Claire glanced over. You're early. Good. She tapped the board. We have 3 potential appetizer concepts for an upcoming event next week. Some high society reception, likely with press coverage. I want them perfected before we finalize the menu. Lily approached, scanning the ideas. A cold melon soup with spicy foam, a beet carpaccio with goat cheese mousse, and a reinterpretation of grilled shrimp with tropical fruit salsa. Chef Claire made a small sound of approval as Lily read. I want your taste buds on these, she said. Paolo and Kayla will help prep. Let's see how quickly we can get them presentable. Despite the swirl of anxiety still shadowing her mind, Lily nodded, letting herself slip into that creative space she adored, where flavors, textures, and balance took center stage. Over the next hour, the R&D kitchen hummed with controlled chaos. Slicing, dicing, blending. Lily meticulously measured seasonings and tested each prototype. The meltdown she feared, Alistair's wrath, felt distant in these moments of culinary flow. They had just finished plating the second appetizer, a delicate ring of beet slices topped with goat cheese mousse, when Chef Claire's phone buzzed. She answered curtly, listened, then grimaced. Understood, she said tightly, ending the call. She fixed Lily with a level stare. Mr. King wants you in the executive conference room. Something about finalizing expansions and wanting culinary input, but his tone suggested it's urgent. Lily's heart lurched. Now? Yes, now. Chef Claire handed a damp cloth to Kayla, then turned back to Lily. Go on. We'll finish up here. Swallowing her nerves, Lily removed her apron, handed it to Kayla, and hurried out. Her mind churned possibilities. Jason had said he would handle Alistair. But how? And why would Lily need to be present for an executive meeting? Fear threatened to tighten her chest, but she forced herself to keep walking. She trusted Jason. A short elevator ride later, she emerged onto the top floor again, heading down a hushed corridor that led to the executive meeting suites. A receptionist outside the largest conference room nodded Lily in, looking slightly confused. Within, she heard muffled voices, tense, clipped. Summoning her courage, Lily stepped through the doorway. Inside, a long glass table dominated the space. Jason stood at its head, posture rigid. Across from him sat Alistair and another investor Lily vaguely recognized from the lunch the day before. The air practically crackled with tension. Alistair's expression was smug, but Lily sensed an undercurrent of anger. Jason spotted Lily immediately. Come in, he said calmly, gesturing for her to stand near him. Then he turned his gaze back to Alistair. You were just saying, Alistair? Alistair's eyes flicked to Lily, then back to Jason. This is an internal hotel matter, King. I don't see why your new tasting consultant needs to be involved. Jason's jaw tightened. Because this matter concerns her directly. Go on, finish what you started. Lily's pulse pounded, uncertain what was happening. She noticed a stack of documents on the table. Alistair's associate looked extremely uncomfortable, as if he'd rather be anywhere else. Finally, Alistair exhaled, narrowing his gaze at Lily. Fine. I'm stating that Ms. Reyes here has been fraternizing in ways that compromise the objectivity of any expansions. She's in no position to advise you on major hotel decisions. Lily's throat constricted. This was Alistair's attempt at sabotage. She started to speak, but Jason put a gentle hand on her arm, silently urging her to wait. That's interesting, Jason said, voice dangerously level. Because Ms. Reyes has come forward about your attempts to bribe and threaten her to push your expansion agenda. Are you denying it? Alistair's cheeks burned red. I have no idea what you mean. If anything, she approached me, seeking money for special favors. She's using you, King, using this entire place for her own gain. Lily stiffened, shock flaring. A swirl of indignation pricked her eyes with tears. This man was lying outright to destroy her reputation. She yearned to defend herself, but Jason took the lead. No, Jason said, voice clipped. I have text messages Lily forwarded to me from your number, plus one from an unknown line that I've traced to your secondary phone, all urging her to manipulate me and threatening consequences if she refused. Alistair's face drained. Texts can be fabricated. She also told me about your confrontation with her in the Orchid Bar, Jason continued, eyes cold. Chef Claire witnessed you lurking around the staff station, something employees have corroborated. Do you truly want to push this any further, Alistair? A hush fell. Alistair's associate coughed nervously, scooting his chair back. Realizing he was cornered, Alistair's expression twisted with fury. You'd believe a cleaning lady's story over an investor who's funded your father's projects for years? Jason's nostrils flared. My father's era ended when I took over. I won't be blackmailed into expansions that harm the hotel's long-term vision, and I certainly won't allow you to bully one of my employees. A trembling relief swelled in Lily's chest. Jason believed her. He stood by her. Yet Alistair wasn't finished. He slammed a hand on the table, making the documents jump. You'll regret this, King. You're turning your back on major capital, money that your precious hotel depends on. Don't come begging when you're short on funds. And you, he spat, glaring at Lily, you have no idea what you've unleashed. Jason placed a protective arm in front of Lily, though not touching her. Just a clear barrier. Kindly leave, Alistair, before I have security escort you out. Your partnership here is over. There was a tense beat of silence. Then Alistair shoved his chair back with a screech and stormed out, the other investors scrambling to follow. The door slammed, leaving Lily trembling. She realized she was clutching the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Jason turned to face her. Are you all right? She managed a shaky nod. Yes, just shaken. I didn't expect him to lie so blatantly. He sighed, shoulders sagging as if the confrontation had drained him. I suspected as much. That's why I wanted you here, so I could handle this publicly with witnesses. He can't twist it behind closed doors anymore. Tears pricked Lily's eyes in relief and gratitude. Thank you, she whispered. I was so afraid he'd ruin everything. I never wanted to cause problems. Jason's gaze softened and he gently touched her upper arm, guiding her away from the table. You didn't cause anything. He brought this upon himself. I should have seen his manipulations sooner. He swallowed, eyes full of sincerity. I'm sorry you had to bear that pressure alone. She blinked back tears, her voice trembling. You believed me, though. From the start, you believed me. I don't know how to thank you. His lips curved in a warm, reassuring smile. You don't owe me anything, Lily. I'm just glad you trusted me enough to tell me the truth. They stood in the silent conference room, an odd hush descending now that the threat had passed. Jason rubbed the back of his neck. Alistair will cause a stir, no doubt. He'll try to spread rumors that I'm discarding valuable capital. But the King Group's future can't hinge on men who blackmail and threaten. We'll find honest investors. She let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The idea of him losing investors because of her weighed heavily, but the reassurance in his tone eased that guilt. If I can help in any way, he interrupted gently. You already have. Your work in the kitchen, your honesty, that's worth more to me than whatever money Alistair was waving around. And I'm determined to see you thrive here. If that means we move forward with expansions more slowly, so be it. Her pulse fluttered at the genuine warmth in his voice. The tension in the air, once threatening to crush her, began to recede. In its place, she felt a quiet closeness. "Thank you," she said, almost breathless. This means so much." Jason nodded slowly, then hesitated, as if weighing a thought. Finally, he spoke. "Listen, Lily, I know we've kept our dynamic professional, but I'd be lying if I said I'm not drawn to you. Your determination, your talent, the way you've faced every challenge with integrity." He exhaled, searching her eyes. "I respect you too much to pretend otherwise." Her heart lurched. She'd sensed an undercurrent between them, but hearing him say it aloud stunned her. "Jason," she murmured, feeling warmth rise in her cheeks. I never imagined—" "I'm not demanding anything," he clarified gently. "If you need time, or if you'd rather keep everything strictly professional, I understand. Your career, your daughter, your future come first, but I wanted you to know how I feel." Emotion swelled in Lily's chest, tears threatening again, this time from a rush of gratitude and something deeper. It felt surreal that the CEO who once found her asleep in a bathroom stall was now risking investor backlash to protect her and admitting he had genuine feelings. Yet none of it seemed forced or contrived. Every gesture, every word resonated with truth. She managed a trembling smile. "I care about you too," she whispered, voice shaking from a cocktail of relief and happiness. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. Not just a job, but respect and belief in my abilities." He smiled softly, then glanced around, remembering they were still in a very public executive suite. "We can talk more later, in a more private setting," he said with a hint of a grin. "For now, maybe we should rejoin the real world. I need to inform the board about the end of Alistair's involvement. You, on the other hand, are free to do what you do best. Create extraordinary flavors in that kitchen." Lily gave a small laugh through her tears, swiping at them with the back of her hand. "I'll do my best. Chef Claire is probably waiting for me to finalize those new appetizers." Jason walked her to the door, stopping just short of it. He leaned close, voice low. "Thank you for standing strong. Don't worry about Alistair. He won't get near you again." She looked up, finding his eyes steady and reassuring. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." With a gentle nod, he let her go. Lily stepped into the corridor, heart hammering in her chest, mind spinning with the flurry of events. Alistair's threat was still a reality, but she believed Jason's determination to shield her. More importantly, she felt her own resolve. She wouldn't run or hide. Her place at the Grand Minerva's culinary helm was earned, and she refused to let any bully chase her away. That afternoon, Lily returned to the R&D kitchen. Chef Claire barely acknowledged her arrival, focusing on the melon soup test. But Lily didn't mind. Just seeing the familiar swirl of steam and hearing the clang of utensils steadied her. She threw herself into the next tasks, ensuring each dish showcased the synergy of flavors. This was her passion, her calling. And now, no blackmail, no intimidation would sever her from it. When the day ended, Lily headed home, physically drained but emotionally lighter than she'd been in days. Aunt Rosa and Sophia greeted her with squeals of excitement when she told them the storm had passed. For now, the threat that once loomed so large had been confronted head-on by Jason's swift loyalty and Lily's own refusal to bend. Together, they'd staved off a crisis. In the weeks that followed, life at the Grand Minerva slowly returned to normalcy. Alistair sold his remaining shares in anger and spread some rumors, but none gained real traction. Jason stood firm, and the board rallied behind him. The expansions proceeded, albeit with different partners, ones who respected ethical boundaries. Meanwhile, Lily's apprenticeship flourished. She refined sauces, crafted intricate desserts, and accompanied Chef Claire to private tastings. Jason would occasionally drop by the R&D kitchen, offering a supportive smile or tasting a sample at Lily's invitation. Their bond grew, cautiously stepping beyond the realm of professional respect into something warmer, deeper. They kept it discreet, mindful of prying eyes, but the synergy between them was clear to anyone who paid attention. Chef Claire's attitude thawed, too. She recognized Lily's unwavering commitment. One evening, she set a new official name badge on Lily's workstation. Lily Reyes, Culinary Development Associate. Lily's eyes welled with tears at the sight. It symbolized not just a title, but the transformation she'd undergone since that fateful night she dozed off in a bathroom stall. And so, at last, Lily stood at the threshold of her dreams, balancing the needs of her daughter and aunt with a job that sparked her every creative nerve. She'd found an unexpected champion in Jason King, a man who, beyond wealth and power, showed genuine compassion and admiration for a single mother's hidden talent. They had more hurdles ahead: public scrutiny, swirling rumors, the challenge of mixing business and emotion. But for now, she faced the future with hope. Late one night, after a successful service, Lily and Jason found a moment of quiet near the rooftop terrace that crowned the Grand Minerva. He led her to the edge where the city lights flickered like fallen stars. The hum of distant traffic enveloped them. Jason turned to her, eyes reflecting both determination and tenderness. "You once told me," he murmured, "that cooking was your dream. I hope we've only begun to see what you can do." She smiled, heart softening. "It feels surreal, but I'm grateful." He brushed a light touch across her cheek, reverent and gentle. "I should be the one thanking you for reminding me that genuine passion, honesty, that's what truly makes this hotel shine. Not the investors, not the grandeur, people like you." Her breath hitched, tears pricking the corners of her eyes. She realized in that moment how far she'd come. From a tired cleaning lady asleep on a toilet seat to a woman standing under the city's starlight, forging a new culinary legacy. Warmth spread through her, and she leaned closer. In that hush, the distance between them collapsed. Their first tentative kiss carried the taste of unspoken promises, a future full of mutual respect and a chemistry they could finally acknowledge. When they parted, the glow of the city danced in Lily's eyes. Jason smiled, lacing his fingers gently through hers. "We'll take it one step at a time," he said, voice husky with emotion. "If that's what you want." She nodded, confidence brimming. "Yes, one step at a time, together." And with that quiet pledge, Lily's new chapter truly began, standing side by side with a man who saw her worth, chasing a passion for flavors that transformed her life, and forging a love strong enough to stand against any obstacle. The once exhausted cleaning lady and the millionaire CEO had met by chance, but destiny had entwined their paths. Now they walked forward, hearts ablaze with possibility, ready to write a story only they could create. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen,